This conference will now be recorded.
All right. The time being 4:45 p.m., I'd like to call the meeting of January 20th, 2022 to order. Before we get started, if you are joining us virtually, please mute your microphone during the meeting unless you want to speak. Otherwise, background noise will interfere with the meeting. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Okay, we'll do the minutes. Bring the minutes of January 6th. Review and hopefully approve those. Has everyone had?
Make a motion to approve the minutes of Thursday, January 6th as presented.
Motion, is there a second?
Ruggles, second.
Motion is second. Any discussion?
I had a couple of grammatical things in here that I'm trying to locate them. Nothing particular. Earth-shattering.
Well, didn't we have to have minutes of the previous meeting brought back? Because there were chunks brought up. Maybe I'm thinking of something else. Any other discussion? You find those? Yeah.
I'm still looking.
All right, I'll give you a minute or two.
I'm fine. Go ahead.
All right, John, anything? All right, all those in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? None, abstentions? Motion passes. I'd like to make, oh, I always forget. Oh, sure, I don't have it on this one.
It's on.
Oh, that's right. I'd like to make a motion to go into non-public session per RSA 91-A:3, paragraph 2. C, matters which, if discussed in public, would likely affect adversely the reputation of any person other than a member of the body or agency itself, unless such person requests an open meeting. This exemption shall extend to any application for assistance or tax abatement or waiver of a fee, fine, or other levy if based on inability to pay or poverty of the applicant. Do I have a second?
Second, Ruggles.
Roll call vote.
Constantino, nay.
Jessamine, yes.
Ira, yes.
Ruggles, yes.
Scanlon, yes.
We are in non-public session at 4:49.
This conference will now be recorded.
The time being 4:55, make a motion to come out of the non-public session. I'm sorry, make a motion to seal the minutes of the non-public session as until the matter is resolved.
Ruggles, second.
Motion second. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None. Abstentions? None. Motion passes. As I said, it's 4:55 and we are back in public session. And next up, Tim Pearson, IT Director, revised budget review.
Right, so I actually have a number of things to go over with you. And I'm just gonna start, I'd like to start with the 10 authorization. So I had handed out a memo, just, this is the time of year when we need to initiate tax anticipation note for the year where we can borrow against anticipated taxes. And I'm asking for the up to $3 million and at a rate of 1%. Again, I'm trying to get 1%. So right now, there's a discussion about if we act quickly, we should be okay. But I don't want to push it. And the process, once you vote, it's going to take me, so I have to put a lot together, our cash flow analysis and a number of other things for the bank, and put a whole package together for them for the loan committee, and then they have to go through the review. And so there's a good 4 to 5 weeks before we'll get approval. But I would say that if the board votes on it tonight, we should have something in place by March 1st. And I've committed to the bank that if this goes through tonight, I'll get them the packet by the end of the month. So, and that should make their deadline. So as you can see, I've requested the board vote on this, and I provided a sample motion if you're so inclined.
I move that the town initiate up to a $3 million line of credit tax anticipation note with Franklin Savings Bank for 2022 with the rate of interest not to exceed 1%.
Jessamine, second.
Motion and a second. Discussion. Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None?
Okay.
Motion passes.
Thank you. And then just as an aside, I'm going to have to find a different attorney this year. If you recall, we had to, because of the borrowing we did last year with the police building, we needed to have all the borrowing done by the same bond counsel, and it was expensive. So our regular attorney that we use for most town issues has declined to do the TAN opinion letter because it's somewhat involved and specialized. So I'll need to find someone. I've contacted another town and they've recommended someone. So it would just be for the purposes of the tax anticipation note. So in any event, so that draws a conclusion to that. So what I have for you, the board requested that I go through and make some recommendations on the budget last meeting, in particular for the PD budget. But in doing so, it also uncovered a few other areas that that I think warrant a review and discussion. So there are, so to start, I'll just go through the PD budget first and the changes. So this is what I'm going to hand out as a pro forma roster as of July 1. So, you know, a lot of times we talk about what we have, what we're going to, how we're going to get there. So this is a snapshot in time as of July, what the PD should look like.
Is that July 1 of 2022?
22. And this Lieutenant Gilman has seen this and is in agreement with it. And I know it's a little small, some of the writing, but you'll see this is going to have a significant impact, a positive impact on our budget. So what my recommendation is and again, this is with input from the lieutenant. He wanted to have 3 sergeants in his supervisory staff. In addition, we had budgeted, in your last approved budget, there was a full year salary for the chief at the prior contracted rate. So we would reduce that by half, essentially, and then also reduce and eliminate the lieutenant position starting July through the end of the year. So essentially we're taking the chief and lieutenant position, combining it budget-wise, and eliminating that. If you go down, you'll see that on line 8, and I've put line numbers on here so that it doesn't necessarily mean you need to discuss.
Excuse me, to the end of the year?
Right. So in other words, for the 2022 budget, you'll see that when you look at the budget itself, the chief's line has $39,390 in it for budget, which represents July 1 through the end of the year at the current lieutenant rate.
Okay.
So,
So
Oh,
if
great.
we do end up selecting the chief, then we bring back the lieutenant, we don't. Got it. You got a plan. Okay.
right. So, this is again a pro forma
Mhm.
roster.
Got it.
So you would have a chief, and then you'd have 3 sergeants.
Mhm.
There would be 2 detectives. There would be 9 in patrol, which includes 1 SRO. So keeping in mind, you'd have 8 in patrol for the majority of the year, which is what we've been used to.
Mhm.
And then SRO comes back in for the summertime when the schools are closed and helps out with PTO coverage and that sort of coverage during the summertime. So in combining the chief and lieutenant budget, it allows for adding that officer that we need within patrol, so that we have a total of 9, one of which is SRO. There's no change to dispatch, and only slight increases to overtime and part-time to account for shift coverages. What's also important to look at in here are the start dates for the patrol officers. So this is one of the things, as we are currently in the 3rd week of January, we're looking at a March 1 start for 1 officer, an April 1 start for a 2nd officer, and a May 1 start for the 3rd officer. And you can see the salary budget implications, the budget changes there next to those. And yes.
Is that doable? Can we put 3 patrolmen on between now and then?
So Lieutenant Gilman and I discussed that, and in particular, the first 2, March and April, seem to be reasonable or realistic, I think is the word you use.
Yeah. I mean, we obviously have to get people that apply. We've got a full application that's come in, but the thing is we need to get, and we'll speak on that, is that bottom pay up, and then hopefully in those increments, we can get people in those positions.
Now, if I may,
Right.
If you're going to speak.
Yeah, you
come up
probably
here,
should
Lieutenant.
use do we
You
have
want to
another
speak here?
You
or
can use mine.
yeah, we can use yours.
One.
Yeah,
Okay.
just explain what I just said.
Just because,
Yeah.
Gail has to hear it.
So obviously, it looks like March, April, and May. So if we get applications, people are come into, obviously apply for the position, and everything works out well. Those will be good times with the background checks, everything else, that we would input those officers. Again, we have to obviously get that bottom number up, and that's what Tim will talk about, so that we can get the applicants to put in applications. We can be competitive with the surrounding agencies.
So,
we've been short 3 officers for how long now?
We've been short a lot of officers for a long time now.
Little
So
over a
the
year.
3 officers, I'd have to do we had Tyler that left. So I would say most of this year we've been out.
Okay, I kind of know the answer here,
Yes.
but we're walking through the garden.
So one of the reasons, if you look at the notes on these 3 patrol officers, because those are open positions, we're recommending the wage be increased for the base wage to $23 an hour from, I believe it's $21.95 right now, which was the former $21.25 plus the 70 cents the CBA got this last year. So we're recommending as part of this, but that goes into the budget, and that's factored into these dates and savings that you're going to see in the pro forma.
I get that. I understand all that, but I want to know that if we couldn't put on an officer in the last year, or nowhere near as many as we needed, what makes you think that in the next 3 months, 4 months, that we're gonna all of a sudden find these people?
Well, bringing that number up is obviously going to be competitive. We can talk about numbers of where we are, but we are low compared to all the other agencies in this area. So it's going to help bring that up, which will limit applicants to put in their application. And then obviously we're going to be able to hire. The problem is we did hire very well this year. We hired a lot of people, but we lost them as we went. We lost the big chunk. And then as the year went on, we hired more people. But then, Tyler had left, Brian Keeler had gone. So that was the problem. You know what I mean? So we were keeping up with, even at that wage, even where we were low, we were still having applicants put in applications and hiring. But this is obviously going to help us because right now it just seems stale, but we're not the only ones. It's all over this area. I mean, you can ask any police department, we're low. We need to bring that number up so that we can be competitive because it's just going to help us.
But some other agencies have not had difficulty though at this
they've had a high
wage.
salary wage.
Yeah.
Right.
Is,
So the surrounding towns very close to us, Joe, up their entry wage. And so like Northfield, there's
I understand
$23.
that. I have a further question.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm getting this, but listen to what I'm saying. I want to know, isn't the wages negotiated in the union contract?
That's correct.
How can we raise the starting wage if it's already a negotiated item? That's the question.
We
can answer that.
okay.
Go ahead.
Anybody?
Okay, go ahead. We all know the answer.
We all know the
Go
answer.
ahead, Tim.
Because
I don't know the
in the
answer.
current
All
in
know.
the current agreement, it's identified by individual and not by any starting or wage scale. So so because these are open positions, the board's able to do that.
And part of the ARPA funds allows for,
Adjustments.
adjustments in the wage retention.
Temporary adjustments or?
Yeah, you'll
Yes.
see that in a little bit. We're going to be talking about that as well. So this roster that you see provides for 15 certified individuals, meaning, gun carrying, arrest powers, and 20 full-time employees in the PD. And again, keeping in mind, those are scaled in March, April, May entries. We also made a few changes based on the discussion we had on the types of health plans that we budget for. So made a few little changes there. But here I have the if you just start on the first page here, don't get too far ahead because there's a lot of info behind it too.
Thank you.
So this is a representation of the town budget, and you'll see in the highlighted section under police, you can see in the Board of Selectmen column, the last voted increase or the last voted amount for the police budget was $2,211,621. Implementing this roster with these timeframes brings it down to $2,146,085. So that's with the increased base wages, and that's with the discussion of the chief and lieutenant position and the third sergeant. Okay, so it's 15 certified, 20 full-time. If you go to the next page, you'll see this is the pro forma breakout of the underneath the department request. It shows what those amounts are for each of these lines. So you can see the chief line is budgeted at $39,390, which is half of the year of the current lieutenant's salary. In addition, the salaries for officers' wages, those are all of those changes we just discussed. Overtime, as I mentioned, was bumped up from 46 to 50,000, again for shift coverage while they're bringing people in. There were a few slight adjustments to some of these other lines. The merit raise pool, that is really just two people. That would be the chief and the administrative assistant, budgeted at 4%. And just to give you a point of reference, the former chief's wage was budgeted at 85,000 in the budget. And if the 4% were to be put into this chief's wage, and the annualized amount would be just under 82,000 with that 4% merit. Support staff didn't change. Part-time wages went from 14 to 18, anticipating an increase in not only the rate, but hopefully the shift coverage and usage of that line. And then the taxes, retirement, health insurance, that all flowed from the rest of the lines. So those are really the majority of the changes. There's one other change in here, which is related to the Cellbrite license. And unfortunately, I see that I had not taken out the note of the Cellbrite license, but and it looks as though I had not removed that Cellbrite license from this one because I had two versions I was dealing with. So, but in discussing with the lieutenant, we really don't have anyone that's in a position to be able to utilize that this year without the training and without having sufficient patrol resources. Can't afford to send someone to the training this year. So this is foregoing the license for this particular year.
Joe?
Is there a re-up fee? I don't even know what you officially call it, but you go away and then all of a sudden you come back.
Right. I don't believe so. It's an annual license. We will try to find that out.
Just
So
curious.
there might have to
I
possibly
get
be
a
a
better
modification.
deal as a continuous customer. as
Well-
opposed to-
What is the school? How much is the school?
Well, if you recall when prior detective was here,
Right.
to go to 2 classes, I believe it was just under 5,000. And it was
It's 2 weeks.
2
Was it? Yeah.
And we can't afford to put
I think it's
JT through that?
I think it's not a matter of affording it financially. I think it's that
Resource.
because we're down on human resources.
Do you think that that may change in the fall? I mean, would you give up right now and then it change in the fall? And then we, kick ourselves in the boot because we all of a sudden gave it up? And we
Yeah.
had an opportunity to
I think that's a good question. Bob.
Cellbrite has been invaluable for, with detectives in solving drug cases, invaluable. So I would kind of take another look at that. My own opinion here, it's been invaluable.
Joe? Tom, I'll get you next.
No, go ahead, John.
Yeah, I think that's a wise thing to do, which very invaluable. I think we all know my history with that one. Originally, I thought it wasn't a good thing to get, but after I've seen all the results they've gotten from that, if by chance we do end up hiring the people, we might be able to free somebody up and get them in there. We've got people who want to be detectives and move up into that.
Right.
I think it's a good.
And
So
both
keep-
Liz and JT could go.
I have a different way of asking the same thing that they're asking. Is it possible to delay the license so that obviously we can't use it now, but let's just say, do they run on a fiscal calendar where it would be July 1st to June 30th? Or would they run, maybe we send someone in August, because I think last year the class was in August, so maybe we can get someone in August. So then we pay for it from August, August to the end of July versus, most of the year, we're not gonna be able to get anything out of it.
The license is due now.
Okay.
So we have to make a decision now to pay for it or forego.
Doesn't
But
hurt to ask.
but it can't hurt to see if we can't pause that for 6 months or so.
I would be in favor of foregoing it in the short term if we can just sign up again, because we have no way to use it.
My experience with the company in the past, when we were going from a donated license to a town paid license, was one that it's pretty inflexible. they really have a monopoly on this segment. So there's really no competition there for them. So, but it can't hurt to ask just the same, particularly in light that we've been a customer for many years, and that I'm sure, we can at least make a case for the resource issue and delaying it. So we'll see about that.
Yeah,
So,
I'd like to leave it in there. We could always remove it out. For the time being, leave it in there.
yeah,
We can move it out in March if we have to.
Good foreshadowing.
right, yeah. I mean, like I said, we're late right now with our payment. So we'll have to make a decision here pretty quickly. So, but we'll see what we can do. And I definitely agree with you. I think everyone agrees it's a great product. So other than that, those were the only other changes to the PD budget. So it was primarily the roster changes, the timing of the hiring, and those few health changes. So that, and as fortune would have it, my inability to take that license out of there, it has it in there. So that's in that 2,146,085 number. So that is the PD, the recommendation for the PD budget. Would you like me to move forward and go through some of the wage adjustment information? Or would you like to discuss the roster and potentially vote on changing the budget for the PD, your approved budget for the PD?
Yeah, I feel pretty comfortable with the cuts that have been made.
I do too, and I'm very confident with the wage increases that you're discussing. And you, if you look beyond there too, looks like you're increasing a little bit to the part-time.
Yes, yeah, so I don't believe the board has made any decisions yet on that, but we've increased the money, right, from 14 to 18,000 for part-time. That's correct.
That would be, we have regular part-time things that we do, but is that like front-loaded kind of at the beginning of the year because we're 3 officers down?
Isn't that partly to be competitive?
Exactly, well,
We're trying to be competitive wage part-time because we have, for instance, we have
So we've
an officer that's getting $18 an hour part-time here in Tilton, and that gets $23 an hour in another town over, part-time, then spends the majority of the time in another town because it's $23 an hour. Our part-time wages have not been changed for years.
Right.
Years.
that's
And
correct.
we're, 6-7 years ago, we were just above the norm, and a lot of corporations and industries and a lot of businesses and now municipalities are feeling this push from wages in the pandemic, that all of a sudden there's a shift in wages. And now we find ourselves in the bottom of the pile, where you have Franklin, Northfield, Sanditon paying $23 an hour entry level, and we're still at $21 an hour. So same benefits, and then they're going, where are they going to go? Well, it's only 5 seconds up the road here, and it's $2 more an hour. So the same way with the wages, we have a retired lieutenant who would love to come here more hours, but can't because they're getting $5 more an hour in another town. So we really need to take a look at part-time wages and possibly increase that level as well as the entry level,
So
along with the entry
the
level.
change from 14,000 to 18,000 is not indicative of an increase in hours necessarily.
No, I think it is. It's going to be predominantly hours. The difference, if you look at what most people work during the year, we had one person work over 1,000 hours, And so if you're looking at an increase of, say, $4 for that individual or $3 for that individual, and keep in mind, there's no retirement, or other benefits associated with it. And in the case of one of our individuals, because of their status, we don't pay Social Security tax on them either, because of their retirement status. So in any event, it is both usage and wage combined.
Okay. So it's a combination.
It's a combination.
That answers my question.
John?
Thanks.
No, I'm good.
I'm fine. Do we need a motion on the budget?
I would say that the board should make a motion to revise the police department total to $2,146,085.
So moved.
Second.
Good question. Does that include the Salisbury?
It does, yeah. I must have been thinking ahead.
Good job foreshadowing.
I was hoping,
Yeah, the 8 ball.
Good save.
no good.
Any other discussion?
In looking at it and just talking about the part-time piece, also the hourly wage increase, I worry that we're going to continually be behind the 8 ball in terms of that going forward. So I think as we look at the next year or two, how we are able to get to, as Pat's mentioned, the competitive level with neighboring municipalities would be really, really important, so that we're not, over the next couple of years, that we're not looking for a massive increase in one lump sum, so to speak.
Well, and we are going to be discussing that as it relates to wage adjustments, because there'll be a recommendation to accelerate the negotiating cycle for the contract. And rather than let it go out 3 years, start the renegotiations at the end of the second year to be effective the third year. So essentially shorten it by a year.
Yeah, I just think, and Pat mentioned it again too, I think being competitive, because if you've got, let's say we're at $18 an hour approximately for part-timers, they can go work at McDonald's for $16.50. So just, that's, and it's as dangerous as McDonald's can be. It's a far different thing when we're talking about the folks who are taking care of our stuff.
Putting their lives
Twice
on the
on the
line.
line. You bet.
Exactly.
You bet.
Totally agree.
I have a question. We've talked about getting us to the competitive to equal. But if we're a little above, will that help with recruiting? I don't know. I'm asking because, everyone always targets to be equal, but if we just bit the bullet a little bit, because wages aren't going down anytime soon. And if we were a little ahead, would that, in the long run, would that be something to look at?
Something to talk about.
Yeah. And I think you asked a good question, because we have larger considerations with the development that is taking place in the area. And so it's just in terms of what kind of stresses are going to be put on our police department or EMS, et cetera.
I can tell you, I think you had mentioned that one of the neighboring towns has a similar base wage, but is paying a signing bonus as well. However, the advantage that Tilton has is, there's some intangible benefits, such that we have a brand new building. We're going to have brand new vehicles. They have vests, other things that officers will value, that, as long as they're at a competitive wage. And also, if the board does agree, and if we are able to move forward with an accelerated negotiating schedule, then by 23, we'd be able to fix the wage
A
scale.
lot of it.
So it would be not far off.
Yeah, and as Tim mentioned, we actually had this conversation with Lieutenant Gilman, because we asked him that question.
Yeah.
And he was the one who came back to us and said just exactly what Tim had mentioned, of all these other intangibles that
And education and training too.
make us
Mhm.
a draw,
Mhm.
big, little town, big city problems,
Mhm.
and all the new things that have gone along with it. So I think based on the conversation that the three of us had, you felt comfortable with that?
Oh, yes, absolutely.
Thank you.
Any other discussion on the motion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? None? Abstentions? None? Motion passes.
Great. Before we move off of this first page, I just would like to bring to your attention a few other changes that were recommended. In Public Works, the Public Works Director, if you recall, had $11,000 in his training budget, 1,000 of which was for general training, and then 10,000 was for CDL upgrades. The director has revised that and has reduced it by $5,000. So he's now intending to get his own upgrade, which was, I believe, a recommendation by the board. So that's $4,000, and then he'd have $1,000 left in the line for regular training. So he's recommending reducing his line by $5,000 in that training area, and that would bring his total budget for Public Works, not including sanitation, to $723,141.
Wait, I just have a question. You have 718 on the Board of Selectmen voted. Then you have a reduction of 5,000, but yet it's gone up by 5,000.
I believe I'll double check it, but I believe I have to look at the detail. If you look at those changes are reversals. So I'm trying to think if there was another.
Did the budget
I'll have
committee
to-
vote with $1,000 in it?
They, in fact, maybe that's what it's looking at. No, it's the same. They did. They did for the time being, but they were having difficulty with that. There was a big source of discussion, and I think it's going to come up again. But I'll confirm that because I need to go through these back while you're discussing other things. The other few things, because we have the 1% TAN approval, I feel like we can reduce the interest expense by $5,000 in the finance budget. And then in the administrative budget, in talking with Jeannie and looking at, we still have been unable to get a price from the school district for the use of the facilities. The last I received was that they would have told us if we were going to have a cost, but I know they're going to charge us for the labor. So there may not be a facility fee, but there's going to be a labor fee for AV and custodial services. So Jeannie and I recommended taking out $2,000 out of the administrative budget. And then the town clerk tax collector. So the town clerk tax collector had not put in for an increase for herself for the budget. And so in discussing with her, she requested that her line be upped by 4%. So the increase that you see there from 127,801 to 133,21, that reflects the increase of 4% for the town clerk tax collector line. And that would bring her salary up to 65,521. The former town clerk tax collector was making almost 67,000 when she left. So those are the other changes. And we can what I'll do is, as you're discussing other things, I'll come back and review them. Shall I move on? Yeah, I know.
Go with the
So-
question.
He always tells me 15 minutes.
The prior town clerk, tax collector had 20 years experience, correct?
Yes.
Fully trained,
Mhm.
correct?
Mhm.
Okay.
So on your next sheet, actually, if you go actually not to the next one, but to the last page, you're going to see, since we were just talking about the PD and wages, you'll see these are recommendations that Jeannie and I have for wage adjustments at the PD, and then worker retention at Public Works. And the board had indicated that, and the ARPA guidelines provide the ability to do this. So you can see, and I've labeled these lines, of course I have 2 4s, but that one's perfect. But you can see there's a section up top and then a section down below. And you can see the total amount of the Public Works ARPA funded would be $7,609. And the total of the PD wage adjustments through the end of 2022 would be $30,560. And you can see how those break out above. So the idea there is this is fixing, particularly in number 3 of that list. You'll see the current wage there, which would be under what the new higher wage would be. You see where I'm looking? So on line 3 of the PD wage adjustments, in the 4th column, you'll see current wage, and that says $21.95. So a $1.80 increase would bring that up to $23.75, and it would be higher than the entry level of 23. Everything else extrapolated out to the right, and of course, the overtime and the expense associated with overtime is unknown, but it's based off of what the prior year's overtime was. And so $30,560 is what that would be through the end of 22, keeping in mind that we would be seeking to renegotiate the collective bargaining agreement for a 2023 warrant article. So effectively going a year early, and then at that point, everything would be in the budgeted wages, and there wouldn't be any need for any other ARPA monies to make any adjustments. So that kind of goes part and parcel, particularly with that line number 3 with the roster. And I believe we're going to talk about the ARPA monies in a little bit in Jeannie's report. And that's what my other 2 pages are referring to. So unless there are any other questions, I'm going to go back and work on some numbers. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Tim. Yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you, Tim. All right, next on our agenda is draft 2022 warrant articles.
Okay, so I emailed you all a copy of the second draft based on our last meeting. Do you have a copy of this, Tim?
Is this number here reflective of what you just gave us in that Article 2?
That's what the budget committee has voted on.
Okay, so
So,
that number's going to change.
yes. So the articles that you're looking at tonight are Article 2 and Article 9. And then after Article 10 is language provided relative to eliminating curbside recycling. All the other articles you have discussed and voted on. So we can go to Article 9 first if you want. I believe I sent you all an email. I did have a discussion with the attorney, and we can put money into the police special detail revolving fund. In the beginning, that wasn't clear. We did some research and found out that we don't have to create another fund. We don't have to do a warrant article if this is what the board wants to do. We just put money into the revolving fund, and Tim has, is that in the handout that you gave them?
Yes.
Tim has come up with the number of 42,000 that would keep us in line with renewal of police vehicles.
Yeah, if you look at the page that's titled Cruiser Acquisition Plan, and you'll see under 2022, we have an encumbrance of 70,000, if you recall. And one of the things we discovered, we were hoping for a little more in the detail fund balance by the end of the year. But being short-staffed, there's not staff to work the details. And when you don't work the details, you don't get the net revenue for the details. So we came up a little short there. So there's $112,131 available, but we need just under $10,000 additional to purchase the 2 Tahoes. So that is an acceptable use of the ARPA funds.
Completely outfitted?
Yep. Yeah, and that's on our ARPA list. That completely outfitted means everything but the mobile data terminals, which would come out of the two existing frontline, or 2 of the cruisers, whichever they would move back in line. And then if you look under each year, so we'd be putting in 42,000 for each additional year. And so if you look in terms of a normal cycle, I guess that's the best way to put it. If we're putting in 42,000 a year and we have $25,000 in net detail revenue, we should be able to purchase a fully outfitted cruiser with new mobile data terminal as well. So on an annual basis, I did not put in the 42,000 for 2022. We do have but that should be in there, providing you agree with this warrant article. So in that case, we would not need the additional ARPA funds. What was I going to say?
Tim, are you saying that there should be showing 42,000 in 2022?
No, I'm sorry. No. No. So what we're looking at is, what I'm trying to show you is how this is going to look over time, how we can purchase and replace a vehicle each year. And the caveat is that if the detail fund tanks and we don't have any details for whatever reason, we don't have the resource or otherwise, then we just have to wait that much longer until we have sufficient monies between the 42,000 each year and what the detail fund prescribes. If we have a banner year in the detail fund, then we won't need to put in $42,000 for that particular cruiser. So in any case, it's kind of getting the town used to paying for something every year, kind of along the lines of what the former chief was wanting to see happen, but putting it in a way that it's an add-on, so it doesn't, it's something that can be discussed every year and looked at every year. And they know that we have a separate fund for it, and that those monies are only going to be used for that. So that's where we stand.
Well, it's nice to see that price of vehicles is going to hold true to.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
so I did put in there, if you look at the note, the prices through increased detail fund revenues or warrant article increases. So obviously we'd be increasing our rate, I would imagine. Of course, our payroll rate will likely increase as well. Other costs may increase, but But hopefully we have had many years where we've been well over $25,000 in net
So that other
revenues.
number could come down.
Right. So it really is, it's not something easily forecasted, but consider the project that may go in on Route 3. That's gonna generate a tremendous amount of detail fund revenue if we have the resources and if that project goes through. Would you agree?
Project would that be?
So in any event, so this,
I'm with him. What project would that be?
the Anchorage.
I didn't realize they were doing anything.
Oh,
Yeah, well,
Can you explain that a little bit?
I think I wouldn't be the one to explain that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think it's been brought to the public yet.
Just now.
There's, there's demolition going on there that people are aware of.
yeah, the fence is up there.
Yeah.
Well, then,
Yeah.
good enough. I don't have any follow-up questions.
And again, who knows if obviously we'll get a bunch of details just because probably getting traffic out, onto the main road.
Just to let you know, Tim, the chief CTAR, when he does his vehicle costs, he increases 5% each year.
Yeah, and this is, again, this is, we have no idea what we're gonna get in those detail fund revenues over time. The important thing is to try to level out the 42,000, I think, is really what is the important part. And that, if you recall our discussion last time, if we can do it in a year, great. If it's a year and a half, so be it. So maybe, one of these cruisers is going to take longer to get because we just don't have the money to do it. Unless there's a really, good reason why we've got to add more money into the warrant article that particular year because we have to get a vehicle replacement. So, but otherwise, I think, a year to year and a half is very doable with this kind of plan. And so that's, I just be happy when we get two, to start.
I was just gonna say, let's get those first two.
Yeah.
Get something.
Yeah. And also we do have in the ARPA plan, which you're going to see a little later, Gina's going to introduce it. We do have that if in any one of these years up through 24, the warrant article doesn't pass, we have money set aside in the ARPA plan to purchase Tahoe. So that if for some reason town meeting voted it down, we have a placeholder essentially for 23 and 24.
Do we need to make a motion on these? And
That's what you did.
okay,
Done.
we can move on to our next one.
Well, did you make a motion?
No, that's what I'm asking. No,
Yeah, I said that's what you did last time.
Oh,
All the other,
I thought you meant like that's what we did. I was saying,
oh, I'm sorry.
I don't know.
Last time you met and you went over the
Yeah.
other articles, you made motions.
So we have to do number 2.
Well, do you want to do number 6
Well,
or 9?
we
since
start
just
with 9.
discussed it?
Sure. Do I need to read the article? Do I need to read the article or?
Or you can refer to it as Article 9.
Yeah,
Yeah, all right. I'll make a motion to recommend Article 9,
with relative to the police special detail.
relative to the, okay, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $42,000 to the police special detail revolving fund.
Vogel second.
Any other discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Motion passes.
The next item is, the board's been discussing the possible elimination of curbside pickup, curbside recycling. So in talking with, doing the research and talking with the attorney, much like we did a couple years ago with trying to get a sense from the town relative to, if you recall, having pot shops in the downtown. This is the same type of advisory notice to, or inquiry, if you will, to the community to try to get a sense if that's something they're interested in. So that's the way the language is written, is just to see if there's any interest in eliminating curbside recycling.
Make a motion, we approve Article 10 as written.
It's actually
don't
not,
have We don't need to approve it. right? We
yeah,
just
it's,
have to
yeah,
have it.
just, yeah, it's
Just
actually,
there.
yeah.
Okay.
Yes. Let's keep it.
Okay.
Put it in
Keep
there.
it.
And then, everybody's good with that?
Yep.
Yep.
And then the last item is back to Article 2, which is it's the Budget Committee's recommended number, although we know that's going to change.
Right.
But I would think you'd want to just go ahead and approve this because they're going to be looking at these warrant articles at their next Budget Committee meeting. So it will change, but we don't know what that
But this is different from our budget.
it is. But if you remember, I think it was last year, the year before, we had this discussion about what this warrant article looked like. And at the end of the day, it's the Budget Committee. So it's not the selectmen. The selectmen make a recommendation, but remember we had that conversation about what that warrant article looks like, and that this is the way we crafted it last year. Tim, do you think they need to vote on this, or? I mean, you're sending it to the Budget Committee saying you've looked at this and you're good with this warrant.
Well, I think
I don't think that
Or
we've
not.
ever had a recommended by this vote is recommended by the budget, by the selectmen
Mhm.
in the total vote of the Budget Committee. Budget Committee's budget. That article, I don't think we needed it specifically in history. I'm not sure about that, but we can, it doesn't matter either way.
Well, for me, either, if you don't want to do it, we'll just send it to them that way.
Doesn't matter. We can always change it on the
Right.
town floor if we don't like it.
Correct.
change the number.
The number is different from what we voted on. So if we recommend it, we're saying
Right.
their number is okay.
Yeah.
If we say nothing, it goes in as it is as a warrant article. And then we can say at town meeting that there's a couple of line items that we differ. And if we choose to, depending on what you want to do, if we choose to, we may change or just leave it alone.
We could amend the number.
We could amend the number.
Check into our history and how we've done it.
Yeah.
We'll just go with
It
that.
just, it doesn't matter.
That's my thought.
Do you want to know who's going to talk about each one tonight, or would you
We don't-
rather wait?
We don't have to. Certainly we can do that if you want. And if you want, my first and second year here, I prepared notes, and my third year I didn't. So if you want me to do that this year, I can. If you don't, that's fine. So if you want to go through that, we can talk about that now. But there is actually one more. We've got a potential additional
Petition.
article, warrant article that Tim and I want to talk to you about. And that's a different one because I didn't know how you were going to feel about it, so I didn't want to put it in this. So if you want to go through these right now and tell me who's going to do what, that's fine. And then we'll talk about the other one.
Okay.
Scott can do the budget. Oh, Scott just recommends the budget to the Budget Committee anyway, so it doesn't matter.
So what you've done in the past is it's been the chair of the Budget Committee who
Yeah.
brought it forward.
Right,
Okay.
yeah.
Right, how about Article number 3?
Pat,
Article 4?
Highway, anyone?
I'll do it.
Okay.
Eric,
Yeah.
Clara.
Me,
Article 5 has to do with town roads, bridges, and sidewalks.
do that one too, since it's kind of the same.
Article 6, revaluation capital reserve fund.
Well, I can do it if nobody else wants to.
Article 7 has to do with the lake improvement maintenance capital reserve fund.
I'll take that one
Okay.
without objection.
Article 8, the Tilton Island preservation and improvements.
I'm happy to do that one.
I think to do that, I've done it for the past. I think.
Then it's yours. Game on.
And we've always had success. So.
I'll do Article 1. It's simple.
Scott, you can do
Oh, yeah,
9.
that's simple.
Scott, you can do 9.
Oh, thanks, Pat. Give me 9. I'll take it. Let the new guy take the arrows. It's all good.
No, that's really a good one.
I'm fine. It's good.
Does anyone want to speak on the sense of, or do you want to have, last time we did it, it was just the moderator who brought it forward. But
What's that?
On what?
Recycle.
Number 10.
recycling,
I want to speak to it.
okay. Okay,
I'll do this.
right.
And with, in regard to Article number 10 and the recycling, Tim, I'll get with you, but in order to have an intelligent discussion on these numbers and dollars and tonnage and stuff, and so we'll get together.
And notes are good, Jeannie.
Yeah, Miss Tillman, I would love.
Okay.
I'd like to
First time
too.
around.
Put the island.
Yeah, please.
First and last, all times in between.
Right, the next warrant article, Tim, if you want to come back up. We talked to the board a couple of weeks ago, actually back in December, doesn't seem that long ago, 1st of December, about the LED lighting contract. And I'm going to pass out, this is a draft of the warrant article that includes the LED, and it's article number 3. Tim, do you want?
Oh, yeah, nice.
So Tim and I, when we met with,
I need another one for Pat. Here.
There you go, Tim.
Oh,
Or-
okay.
I'll just-
does somebody,
Now I don't have one.
No, what?
This is like a 3-speed.
Okay.
so when we met with you back in December, it was about LED lighting, switching over the town to LED lighting. And we had talked with Affinity, and they had given us some numbers, talked to us about rebate amounts. The board at that time had voted to move forward with the proposal. However, if you remember, there was some question about what that rebate would look like. And the board said, because we went back and looked at the minutes, the board said, well, we want to know what that is before we sign the agreement. Since then, and we were waiting to hear from the PUC, if you remember, since then, there has been changes in the rebate, and effectively, we wouldn't see a rebate.
Right, yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah, currently, there's some legislation to change that, but for us to look at doing this now, the best we can hope for is that it may be reinstated in the March timeframe. So if this is a warrant article and it gets approved, this is the total amount without a rebate, the 103,000. So in their proposal, they had about a 3.65 year payback of the money that we're going to save each year versus what we're spending for this, program. And if you factor out the rebate, which was about $24,000, so we're looking at basically adding a year. It's actually a little less than a year in terms of payback time. So within 5 years, we would pay back, the system. And, but also by making this a warrant article, bringing it to town meeting, it gives us, that time frame. We're going to know at that point whether this legislation, I would imagine, is that correct, Ginny? It is been widely discussed. There's a tremendous amount of unprecedented support in the House and the Senate for this. And the governor has indicated he's going to sign it to reinstate it, but it's not done yet. So if we were to do it today, no rebate. The problem is when it comes to the utilities, if you initiate a project before the groundwork is done, and they call it free riding, is that if we went back and said, well, gee, yeah, we started our project, but we really want to get that rebate now that it's reinstated, they don't have to do it. So we have to make sure the cart and the horse are in the right order, which means that before we go ahead and start this in March, or we just have to be prepared for the fact that whether or not the rebate's there or not, we still want the payback. And we're going to go ahead and approve it if town meeting approves it. But it should be in place. This legislation should be in place to reinstate the rebate. So that would be that is the reason for putting this on the warrant. And also, I think this is the kind of thing that you really let townspeople see the work that you're doing to improve the infrastructure in town, that they see that there's a payback. It's the kind of thing that, does it have to be a warrant article? It could be in the budget. You could add it to the budget if you like, but then, it skews your budget for the year because this is really an unusual cost. But I think it's a win, and I think the timing works for us too, being a warrant article.
I'm for- Definitely for putting it in there and, and see if we can play our cards right.
Have a regular conversation about where we're going as the town.
Mm-hmm.
If it looks like the legislature is going to approve the rebate, can you change the amount on the floor, or?
Well, it says up to. So,
Okay.
and if we knew at that point in time that it was a done deal, we could. But I think I would, considering everything that's gone on, I would just leave it as the up to. The other aspect of this that you may think is silly, but if this sort of balances your warrant article for the discussion about solid waste and recycling. Because here you're making an effort to be more energy efficient and more conscious of, the carbon footprint, if you will, of the town of Tilton. At the same time, you're balancing the costs of a service that we provide to townspeople. So so those people that might be interested in or concerned about the conservation aspects of the environment, this might help balance out that, that whole discussion.
Joe?
My intent, maybe the discussion about doing away with recycling is not entirely what my intent is. My intent is to lay out so that everybody knows what it costs.
Mhm.
I still vote for curbside recycling. But I think it's important that we discuss this and the costs about this.
Right.
And that everybody knows. And in the past, I brought up curbside recycling to start with, and the garbage bags and all the rest of that stuff. And every time we've had a discussion, I think it's good for the town. Again, where are we going? Because I want to continue recycling, and I would continue recycling, but I'm going to talk with Kevin, see what it would cost to put a recycling transfer station there. What potential money? Sorted recyclables are worth money.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Single stream recyclables cost money. All right, so
We're not making any money.
There's that to discuss it as well. I'm not just thinking about, we'll just do away with curbside.
So that's the net of this. And of course, the longer we wait to act on the contract, there is a time period by which the engineering has to be done and approvals have to be put in place. And so there is a lag time after that. So even in a March date, we might be looking at, summertime installation, something like that. So just keep in mind that we're going to forego a half a year of benefit,
If we
through
can
the
get
savings.
somebody when the time comes.
Correct. Yeah.
Scott has a question.
Commentary. I do think putting it as a warrant article allows us to elaborate a little bit more, similar to what Joe's talking about with the curbside recycling piece as well. It allows us to put in front of our constituents the approximate numbers in terms of savings on a yearly basis and how we're going to catch up. And then ultimately, after we've paid for the project, then we're going to be having, a better net overall. So allowing them to understand that ahead of when we institute a project, as opposed to saying, putting it in the budget and then having to explain afterwards makes it a little bit easier, in my opinion.
I'm
So-
motion, we're all ready for that?
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm gonna vote, I'm not gonna give an article number because we're
Right,
gonna
yeah,
change
just-
things,
yeah.
so I'm gonna say
Thanks.
that I motion to recommend to see if the town will vote and raise the appropriate up to $103,864 for the purpose of purchasing and installing associated materials, supplies, tools, equipment, labor, and other services necessary for the construction completion of LED street lighting in Tilton. This appropriation is not included in the operating budget.
Second,
Motion and second. Any other discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Hearing, I
Oh,
didn't
sorry.
say anything, but
All right, sorry.
I've got a question, Tim. How much does this increase a person's taxes by the 1,000 or by the 100,000?
Didn't bring the sheet with me, but I can give you that in a minute. Roughly 17 cents per thousand,
Thank you.
just over 17 cents.
Any other discussion? Hearing none. John, no? All right. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? None? Motion passes.
So which board
gonna
member would
speak?
like to speak to this?
I'll do it.
Thank you, Lieutenant.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Right. Thank you, Lieutenant.
Oh,
All right, that's all we got, unless you have questions, yes.
while the lieutenant is here,
Mhm.
there was a thing in the FYI, which you guys down here haven't seen yet, but there's a potential for New England electric capacity constraints. And the chances that they have they can't provide enough power. And some people might lose power. Are you aware of it?
No, I'm not. No.
Well, there you go.
Good.
You are our emergency management guy, right?
I am. I know that Kevin LaChapelle actually, he's been,
He's the guy?
he's the guy.
Okay.
But I'm also, with me being head of the agency,
Well, could you make sure that Kim and Kevin are fully aware of it? Because there's recommendations in here about warming centers and there's a number of different things that would have to happen.
Okay.
And
Can you send that to me or can?
I sent it.
She would
I
send
thought
it
I
to you.
sent it to you, but I'll have to look.
He doesn't seem to send it to warning.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
All right.
I think there was one more question, if, I don't know if somebody can find out, for us for, as a talking point on the lights, if that's something that the police could also control if they, like there was a bad accident in the area or something, to light up more. It could-
Well, we will have the ability to control that through computer. That's what they talked about, dimming and.
So it's a safety.
Yep.
Jeannie, Do you happen to know offhand what's the last day of petition warrant articles?
Yes, it's February 1st.
Yes. According to your notes.
This is the new one.
Yep.
That,
I'll give you an updated one now
Okay.
that you've included that article.
Do we know of any that are coming forward?
Have not heard of any.
Me either.
All right. Moving on to selectmen reports. Scott Ruggles.
Just a couple of things as I have traveled to town, just we all can be aware that obviously in the winter months, especially the side streets become a little bit tighter. And just, being aware of pedestrians, being aware of the other motorists that are coming and maybe having to yield a little bit here and there. So having to travel side streets and notice that. And overall, again, I continue, especially with the mixed weather that we've had, the DPW continues to do a fantastic job in getting out there and keeping the roads well maintained. So thanks to them again. And that's it.
All right, thank you, Scott. Joe Jessman.
Yeah, I had a co-op meeting for trash, garbage, and operating committee meeting. And there's several updates from the last one. Let me see if I can decipher this here. Okay, the guy that has the option on the property has paid $1,500 a month for the last 2 years, for a total of $18,000, which we get to keep regardless of whether and that would go back to the towns according to tonnage and the formulas that they've used in the past. There was a chance that he could re-up for 12 months, but the price per month goes to $10,000. He has exercised that right in his contract. So he will be commencing to pay us $10,000 a month. And if he goes for 12 months, that's $138,000 that we would get back. If he pulls the trigger anywhere in that 12 months, and I got to imagine he's gonna, for paying us this kind of money, we still get the $1.5 million asking price, and the $138,000 goes to us in any case. So there would be that coming back. On that property, there's an access road. I know the name of it, but it's basically a dirt road. It's class 6. It's owned by Concord, but it sits on the property that Wind Waste, the incinerator, owns. And it's probably 150 feet or so from our property, but we have a right of way that says Wind Waste has to maintain that road. So the culvert that goes over the brook that flows into the Merrimack River has collapsed. Half of it, there's pictures of it, which I don't have, but it's a 8-foot corrugated steel culvert, and half of it, and there's pictures, half of it just came down 4 feet and deformed the road above it, but only by 2 feet. So there's like a void in there somewhere. It's bad, and the road is currently closed. The guy that's paying us the $10,000 a year knows it. Wind Waste knows it. DOT knows it. Everybody knows it. There's engineering happening. It will be fixed, but just in case you hear, oh, well, the road's not passable, it will be by that time. The tonnage. We talked about counter offering the Wind Waste proposal, and they have chosen, they responded and basically said, yeah, right. The one concession they made was instead of $90 next year, it would be $85. So it'll go down but that's the only concession that they made. They have they have all the cards.
No incentive.
There is no, well, and things are more expensive now. They're gonna have to do some work on those smokestacks. Because that technology evolves as they go forward. We're currently bringing them 47,000 tons per year. So it would have to find a place for 47,000 tons of garbage. We could either pay, and quite frankly, what they're offering us is a sweetheart deal. Because for anybody else bringing their garbage there, the cost is even higher. So tentatively, the operating committee, oh, well, I should explain to you that all of the available landfill space is spoken for. The one place we might be able to get in is Bethlehem, which is currently $95 at the gate. They didn't, that's a Casella place, and they didn't get their permit for expansion. They're talking about putting one in over in Dalton. Dalton is located right by Littleton. Again, there's the there's the transportation costs. And anything that we save, you know, $5 a ton or something. How many tons are we talking about from us, Tim?
About 1,400 now.
1,400. So it's an extra $6,000 a year. In any case, that's what's going on with the tonnage, and the operating committee is putting forward to the joint board a recommendation that we move forward on that proposal. Is there anybody who has something that I haven't heard already? Because we sat around, garbage people from Concord, Laconia, Franklin, Guilford, Ware, our engineer sat there and kicked this around, and this is the least painful option of all the options that we could see, but it's going to be a significant increase in our costs. So they're going to recommend that to the joint board. I voted yes. There's still time to withdraw that vote for Tilton, although there was enough votes there. They each get a certain amount of votes according to the tonnage. And so they have, with that, they're talking about the leachate in the landfill in Franklin has gone down to about 1 ounce per minute. It was like 40 gallons a minute in the last few years, in my experience. So the costs are going down for leachate, and that's cadmium and arsenic and things like that. And there's a company that wants to put solar panels over the top of the landfill. Right now, it's completely sealed in, I would say it would equate to a bleach bottle or one of those plastic laundry bottles. There's a liner that goes over top of the trash. There's a liner that's under the trash, several liners actually. But they want to put solar panels on top of them. And if you've ever been up there, there's a lot of room, but they can't put them on the sides of the hill, only on the flat part up on top. And they require a megawatt of output, potential output from these things in order to make it a viable project. And they're doing engineering, not us, but the solar panel company is doing engineering to see if it's a feasible project, because we would get money back from that. That is my report.
All right, thank you, Joe. Just a reminder that the 2022 filing period for the election of town official opened on Wednesday, January 19th. and it will close on Friday, January 28th at 5 p.m. Positions open are 1 selectman for a 3-year term, 1 town clerk tax collector for a 1-year term, 1 moderator for a 2-year term, 1 budget committee member for a 1-year term, 1 supervisor of the checklist for a 6-year term, 1 trustee of the trust funds for a 3-year term, and 1 treasurer for a 3-year term. Tuesday, February 1st.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes,
are
ma'am.
we sure that it's 5 PM on Friday?
Yes.
It's
By
gonna
law.
stay open by law?
By law.
Okay.
Thank you. Tuesday, February 1st is the last day for petition warrant articles to be delivered to the town clerk by close of business, which is 4:15 PM. Also, the winter parking ban is still in effect until April 15th. And a request, Jeannie, could you make a request? This is from the Tilton Northfield Fire District Budget Committee to see if the town would put the reader board out for their budget hearing, which will be on February 4th, which is a Friday. That could, I know there's town hearing is that day too, or that week.
What is the budget hearing? Friday night?
The Friday, February 4th at 6 PM in Tilton Town Hall, right here,
That's for the fire district.
for the fire district. And I didn't know if they could put, I don't know if you're gonna put the sign out for any budget hearings for here, so it'd be work around that schedule, but at least maybe that week, starting on the 31st. I don't know when the town of Tilton ones are.
Sounds like a good idea to
I
me.
think they're that week.
I think they are too, but I don't know.
The budget hearing is on the third,
Third, I think.
third,
Yeah.
it's on Wednesday.
Well, that's Thursday, the 2nd then.
February 2nd.
So it's on the
Is
second.
that the last possible date you can have it? Or?
No, the actual, well, for the fire district, the 11th is
Buffer
the,
built in cases weather.
the 11th, the following week is, it's like the first opportunity. And then you have still the following week. So, yeah, and then that was all I had for my report. John Scanlon?
That's about it. I think everything else was covered that I had questions on or,
All right, moving on. Next, Pat Constantino.
I have a couple of items. Hopefully I can get through it without coughing. Thank you all that supported the senior center breakfast, that supported fundraiser for the Boy Scouts. We were able to give them $400, which my understanding is that they're replacing a 15-year-old camp stove. So that was very well received. Thank you, Joe Jessamine, for flipping the pancakes.
And lots of them.
Did a great job. It was packed. We had a few bus issues and Kevin was right on it. Muffler came undone, a clamp or something. That was an issue. The other question I had was, are we going to do a community service award this year at town meeting? That's a question. And think about who would we receive that? That's last year was Timothy Pearson, and the year before that was Liz Murray. I have an idea, but I don't want to say it out loud. Turn on the paper and I'll tell you. So the other piece I was going to say. I guess that's it.
That's it? You made it without coughing, that's good. Don't laugh, because that'll make you
I
cough.
know.
All right. We'll move on to the town administrator's report.
Okay, your head's. So you all received my weekly update. The first item, we need to, or I should say, you need to decide who you want to dedicate the annual report to. I've heard 2 suggestions. I think the board has gotten both of those suggestions. And I think we really need to know, because we've got to get to work on language and we've got to get it in the report. There was a second name that came up. You approved the first in memoriam. There was a second name that came up. And I need to find out if the board wants to add that second name to the in memoriam.
Yes.
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 Okay. Does anybody, do you want to write on a slip of paper who you want for this dedication? Do I need to remind you on a piece of paper who the 2 were?
Yeah, I don't recall who they were.
Okay,
I think
There is a post-it.
I know the one, who's the other?
so put a 1 and a 2 by it, will you, somebody, and then I'll ask, tell me 1, 2, and then I can.
1 is the top, 2 is the bottom.
Yes.
Ooh.
Bob Hardy, maybe.
I can't
Yeah.
choose. I think they're both deserving.
I'm choosing. I'm bold. I'm just looking out for the whole community. They must be getting ready to lock up.
Oh,
We'll sit and lock the door so nobody can get up.
But we could do the other one for the other thing.
so. I just
I
got
think
this,
the
it's
name
already
you put
5
down
children.
is the one that really,
because somebody checked.
although this here, Catherine Dawson, as I live and breathe. Nice to see you.
Did you see it?
Sorry. Lost control of myself.
Yeah, right?
So where we were.
So somebody checked off 2.
Yep, I think they're both deserving, quite
So with that being the case, then you have a
frankly.
Thanks,
That-
Joe.
Yeah,
Oh, damn.
You need a coin?
So there's 5
Yeah.
of us though.
right, but one person.
Joe
I
checked
voted
2, makes it
twice.
6.
I think they both are deserving.
Joe,
Yeah,
So
who's got a coin?
I think everybody deserves it.
Oh, let's not do it.
let's not do it.
Yeah.
Think about it.
make it.
Think about it.
Just
Joe,
do it.
think
No,
about it.
no one's gonna be
Think
upset
about
no
it.
matter what.
Think
All right,
about it.
let me
Great
think
choices.
about it and let me think about it.
You are the swing.
All right,
Stop
next
walking in the middle of the
item,
road, Joe.
we already went over the second draft of the town warrant, so that's done. We were going to talk about ARPA recommendations. I'm going to come back to that. That'll be a longer discussion. The item relative to the Dorfield Town Administrator asking if, well, actually, the Northfield Selectmen wanted to know They want to get their own zip code. And they want to know if the Tilton Selectmen would object to it.
Why would we object to something
I'm a
that they
no.
want?
I have no objection.
So you don't care?
I don't-
Okay, so the board doesn't care. Okay,
I thought the
Is
person
that-
that recommended
is
it
that-
was a joke, but they were serious, I guess.
so the next item, land use coordinator. If you remember the last time we met, there was a survey release for LAL, which is Honda. In her title, she had the wrong name. And so there was confusion because the backup documentation didn't match Highland Bridge. It was really for Honda. So she's bringing that back and asking the board to make a motion to approve the reduction in the letter of credit.
Joe has a question.
No question. I make a motion to reduce the letter of credit number SB 236640001 for LAL Property 1 LLC, Union, New Jersey, in the amount of $80,618.17
75.
75.
and 75 cents.
Ruggles, second.
Motion and a second, any discussion?
I have a question.
John,
So when we looked at it last time, we looked at the information that was for Highland Ridge.
No, actually, everything, even in the body of the document itself, it referred to Honda. But in the title, it said Highland Bridge, so she just failed to, but everything matched up.
motion second. Pat? Oh, I thought you had your hand up, sorry.
Before we go on to the next one after the motion, I have a question.
Any other discussion? All those in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed? Abstentions? Motion passes.
Jeannie, can you please ask the land use coordinator for a detailed status on MB tractor pushing snow into the pond on the, by Aspen Dental?
Yeah, she updated me on that today. She called directly. Mark Bourgeois spoke to him, and he said he would remove the snow in the next couple days. So it's going to be removed, and he's been told that no more snow piling there.
Well, pushing snow into the wetlands is a violation. Removing snow from the wetlands is a double violation. So how can he now remove the snow from the wetlands that he pushed into the wetlands? I don't get that.
That's catch 22, isn't it?
Right.
He wasn't supposed to put it in, but now he can't take it out.
So, I mean, I don't get where we're going here with this. So how is he going to remove it? Can we figure out?
Is there a fine involved? Is that kind of what you're
Has-
getting?
What I'm trying to get at is, has DES been contacted? And is there a plan on trying to get it removed? Because this is an ongoing issue that he pushed the last couple of storms into the pond. That was brought to Leanne's attention. I get Leanne has talked with him. He's going to remove it now. That's even more scary that he's going to remove it, because I don't think he can. I don't know. I'm not a wetland scientist. I don't think you can just go and remove it from a pond unless you have something from DES that says you can remove it. So can we get a status on that? Thanks. That was the other thing I had forgotten that I wanted to bring up during my report.
The next item on my action report, property owner on Main Street would like permission to take up 2 parking spaces in front of the church for 3 to 5 days so that he can remove stuff from the building. There are no renovations being done. I did check with our DPW director and the land use coordinator. Neither had concerns, but advised that, and you can read it, that the police be notified sidewalks should be clear and safe. Kevin didn't seem to have any concerns about winter plowing. I did ask the property owner, I called and spoke to him and asked if he had talked with the church, and he had not, but he said if the board grants permission, he would. And I said that we would need a letter from the church saying that they were okay with that. So I don't know what the board wants to do.
Pat?
In the past, in the history of this, we have denied business owners to put any type of dumpster or anything in the parking spaces because those are the state, it's a state road and it's a state parking. We maintain those parking spaces, but it's a state highway. And we have said no to that for that reason. And recently, Polly's Restaurant, who's gutting the restaurant, asked for that to be done. And I said that I would bring it to the board, but I didn't think that they would grant him that permission because it's a state road and the state doesn't want dumpsters blocking, particularly in the winter for storms and things like that. The state's doesn't allow it. They haven't allowed it in the past for business owners coming in, renovating and things like that. And they're not going to allow it for the church to do it as well.
Well, they should check with DOT,
Okay.
because if it's not our parking space, then it would be Department of
That's what I thought.
Transportation.
Because we met with DOT and that was my understanding that we.
Yes, Catherine just corrected me. We do own the parking spaces.
And that's what he was talking about, was putting them in the parking space.
Well, that changes the conversation.
John?
The only other thing would be is, I'm for it, it's our spaces and that we have some type of liability release from them and for any damages, 'cause sometimes roll-offs can damage stuff from curbing or whatever we might be responsible for.
There's plenty of space out back that they can do exactly what they're trying to do out front and putting the parking and putting whatever they want to do out back in the space.
Which spot is this?
272 Main Street, isn't that the white church?
No, it's the building across the street here
The
that
Episcopal
has,
Church?
is it Raven at the bottom of it?
So it's the
It's-
Episcopal Church.
It'd be the Episcopal Church, in front of the Episcopal Church,
Right,
and then the white building
It's on the-
to the
it's on-
right, where the
it's
chairs are.
right. It's on the south side.
There's plenty of lawn that they can put dumpsters there.
There's a railing.
There's a railing and a ramp that go down.
On the church.
Mhm.
They can't put a dumpster down that ramp.
I think a dumpster would be wider than that ramp. It is.
Isn't 272, don't they share the alleyway space with Bryant and Lawrence? Isn't that what it is?
No,
Yeah.
I think.
You
Yeah,
know
that's
272, don't you?
Ideal Hall.
Yes.
Okay, so
I
it's
don't
not the
think-
church.
I don't
it's
think the
Ideal Hall.
church-
No, if
Oh,
they
okay.
want to put it in front of the church. And that's why I said to him, well, have you talked to the church? And he said, no, he was waiting to see if the board would say yes. They said yes, then he would ask the church. And that's
Okay,
when I
okay, no,
said,
yeah, okay, I was.
yeah, that's when I said, we would want a letter
I
from the
think you're
church.
opening up a can of worms if you say yes.
I also worry about the hindrance to businesses
Mhm.
and the parking, which is it's very
premium
honestly,
now.
it's at a premium now during the daytime. So, and then in the evening too that's close enough where you might have patrons to a couple of the restaurants too.
If he's not doing what was it, no construction?
Renovation.
No renovations, I mean, can he wait until the spring and,
Eric, I think Joe had.
Joe, sorry.
I don't know. when does he want to do this? And in line with being business friendly, to put hindrances in people, the businesses downtown, just seems like the wrong thing to do somehow.
There's no other place. There's no other place to put
There
it.
is no other place. Can't put it out in the back. Over here, that's town parking, and where are you gonna put it over there? And then they gotta walk this stuff 100 yards to get it where it needs to go. If it's only a day or two, it seems like the accommodating thing would be to say yes. I think.
3 to 5 days.
So a week. Monday through Friday.
Eric?
Yeah,
John?
yeah, I was trying to think about this and if it was on over the weekend and businesses were affected by it, by like parking or something like that. We'd have to be specific on to what days and it says 3 to 5, I think 3 days, is, good to hustle.
Are you done?
Yeah,
My other thought is that in 10 days, 11 days, Polly's won't be there, so there won't be as much traffic in downtown and during the daytime, but that still leaves at nighttime when there's 3 restaurants that serve food.
On that side of the road.
Yeah. I'm just looking at it. I mean, there's no other place for this person to put a dumpster. There really isn't. There's 3 spaces in front of the church. And there's a crosswalk, and then there's a line of spaces.
Yep.
But you can't put it behind it. You can't put it in, was that lot G? Down at that end, but you can't put it there because there's another building in between. That's a tough one.
How big is this thing?
How big of a dumpster do you know?
Is it like a 35, 40 yarder, one of the,
It didn't say.
did they see when they needed to do it by?
It
If
obviously,
they come before us maybe and.
yes, I'm sure that he would.
Then what happens if you have other people in the area start loading in their stuff in that dumpster?
that's on
That's
him. We aren't paying for it.
That's not our issue, that's his issue.
Cover it overnight.
Yeah, probably cover it.
With the pack.
If somebody's renovating, making a building better,
But they're
It's
not
not
renovating.
renovation.
No, they're cleaning it up. And if
They're
he's
not
got a dumpster
renovating.
that big, what does that
They're
building
just
look like
emptying
inside?
furniture. That's it.
Is it a 10 yard? Is it a 10 yard? Is
He
it
didn't
15
say.
yards?
It says not renovating, they're just emptying furniture, et cetera.
Still, that's a lot of furniture.
I don't know, before I would say yes, I'd have to talk to him, ask him questions.
So I guess,
Public.
I don't know if it helps, but they've had a terrible problem with bed bugs.
Hmm.
And I do know that there's some tenants that abandoned furniture and mattresses, and that could be what it is. They're just trying to get rid of.
Well, that
So-
would definitely be a help for the rest of the downtown. I'd still like to talk to him.
Is there, I wonder if there's any way to be able to do it without using dumpster that would sit there overnight, but you being able to have as much as it clogs things up a little bit, but being able to have a truck there during quote unquote business hours, daytime business hours, but then it's gone in the evening. It is a way to sort of help and accommodate it, but also, I mean, it's tough because it's, as we all know, it's just busy. It's busy from 8 o'clock in the morning until at times 8 o'clock at night.
Eric,
John,
so with that information, my other concern is that if they're carrying items that could contain bed bugs out and walking up the street with them. Obviously, things are be cold or fall off. I know, is this more of something that should be done by a professional? That, or are they going to pre-treat, bake it for 3 days first? Or that's what I'm getting at. I would like some input from that.
Was it, or like, do like
Captain,
1-800.
That's my concern, is that
They
they
have
would be spraying.
professionals in there spraying and killing the bed bugs. And then, you know how tenants can be, some of them are, reinfected and that kind of stuff, but they do have professionals, they're killing them.
You should
So
probably,
in the winter.
Yeah,
if the
can
bed
you,
bugs
can you
fall
come up to the
off-
microphone so that you can be recorded, please? No?
No, public record.
It's been a while, huh?
All right. Welcome. Captain Dawson.
In this kind of weather, if a bed bug falls off a piece of furniture, it's not gonna live. It will die. So you don't have to worry about that. And like I said, they have had a professional in there spraying and spraying and spraying. They've had this problem for a few months. And I'm only guessing that's what they're trying to do, is get rid of furniture that tenants have abandoned.
So if somebody went in the dumpster and took one of their really nice pieces of furniture for their home and walked out with it overnight,
Pick through.
dumpster diving, would that
You could put a sign on.
go to their house?
You could put a
Well-
sign on.
So I would like to think that most people know you don't pick up used furniture on the side of the road, even if it is free, if it's upholstered. I mean, and it's no different than that. We see it all summer long,
Mhm.
People abandon mattresses. It's one of my favorite things as health officers to come across in the summer. But I don't think you need to worry about any contamination. Like I said, they've been spraying very routinely, have been involved with it, so. It's just a guess. That's what he's doing, is getting rid of that furniture. He's a good landlord.
Thank you, Catherine. Any other discussion? We've had one recommendation to have the landlord come before the board.
In 2 weeks, he wants to get it done.
he's been waiting a while.
All right.
Let him do it.
Say, let him.
Yes.
Let him do it, maximum of 2, 3 days.
Yes,
3
Max
days,
is
3 days.
3 days.
3 days max.
not 3 or 5. It might be 5. Oh, it could be 6. No, 3 days.
Is it typically the weekends that are busiest for the restaurants? Should we say Monday through,
Monday through,
Tuesday,
through
Wednesday.
Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday probably would be the slowest days. Yeah. Or you may not get a dumpster there on a Sunday. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday.
Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, or Monday through Thursday?
No, that's 4 days.
But even 3 days,
Tuesday.
3 of those days.
Tuesday, you do not have Tilton House of Pizza traffic. That's one thing.
That's true.
Monday and Tuesday, you don't have Tilton House.
That's true. Monday, Tuesday, you don't
So-
have Tilton House of Pizza traffic.
You got your consensus, 3
Well-
days?
Yes, so what I heard the board say, 3 days, but I do want to circle back to something that John requested, because I don't think the board, I didn't get consensus on which he made the suggestion that there should be some liability release. So I just want to know if that's something the board would like me to tell the property owner that's part of the condition.
Yes.
Yep. Yes.
Damage to the curbing, if there's damage to the road.
Clamped on it. Town hall.
Okay, so we have liability release, 3 days, and a letter from the church saying they don't have an issue with it in front of their church.
Well, it's
I
not,
don't
a-
even care about the church.
Okay,
the
The
church,
church isn't a church.
okay.
It's a church building, but they have
it's our
something
road,
else in
it's
it.
our road, it's our
No,
parking space.
it's
Yeah.
your parking spots.
Right.
Yeah,
And the other
and Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday wouldn't be their prime time anyway as a church.
So you want
Easter
it Monday,
Sunday.
Tuesday, Wednesday?
I
Yeah.
think that
Or
because,
Thursday, because if you get delivery, you don't know what time on Monday, so you can't utilize it.
Has to be gone by the end of the business on Thursday.
Yes.
So is that sorry, you're talking
That's
about
your-
Tuesday,
you just said
Wednesday,
4 days.
Thursday?
Well, if you
Maybe
get it
3 days.
delivered on Monday, you don't know, as John just said, you don't know when you're gonna get it.
Could be 3 in the afternoon.
Okay, so gone by close of business on Thursday.
Has to be there on a Monday or no earlier than a Monday, gone by Thursday.
All right,
Okay with that?
gone by close of business on Thursday and a liability release.
Mhm.
Okay, right.
Thanks.
The other item, new, just came up today that I wanted to talk to you about, which is not on my list, has to do with a call you received, one of the selectmen received, about boulders being placed on Pest House Road, blocking the ability of anyone, it's a class 6 road, blocking anyone from traveling down that road. Our DPW director went down, took a look, and did confirm that there are boulders blocking the road, had a conversation with the owner, and advised him that he needed to move the boulders. Then I spoke with our land use coordinator, who sent down our code enforcement officer to look at it. He confirmed the same thing, had a conversation with the owner, that the boulders needed to be removed because it's illegal to have them blocking the road. I then received a call from the property owner saying that he doesn't have the ability to get to the boulders because of the snow, and as soon as he can, he will. But he expressed that there were a lot of things going on that road, and that's why I put the boulders there to stop people from traveling through.
How did he get the boulders in the road? Did he hire someone to put the boulders in the road?
I'm, based on the conversation with him, I'm guessing that he, if you remember, he's the one you granted the ability to build a house out there. It's the only house on that road, and I'm guessing he had construction equipment and had it done then. It's been there since, they've been there since July. And it was only, brought to our attention in the last couple days.
It's a class 6 town road, which public access that's being blocked by somebody who put boulders on there unlawfully. I think they gotta move them.
No, it's not.
It's not. Oh, so it's the other end.
Right.
Okay,
Frank
got
did.
it. All right.
Yeah, I know where the house is. That road is almost impassable in any case. Certainly with the
I think
snow on.
I
He
think
came before the
snowmobilers,
zoning.
I think snowmobilers were using it and now they can't. I think that's because the snow's on the ground and now they can't get through. That's what's bringing it to.
Wow, you got it.
Was a bad mistake.
Yeah, I mean, he's got to remove them. And it has to be removed. You can't have, they have to be removed. Either he hires somebody to remove them, or we remove them and bill them.
Okay.
One or the other. They have to be removed. It's illegal for him to do it. And I think as such, I kind of see which way the lawyer goes on this one, but I would think that he put them there illegally. If he can't remove them, and he's telling us he can't remove them by any means until the snow goes away, then we need to have them removed. If we remove them, we can bill them. I think we have the ability to bill him time and materials. I think we need to check that out before we,
Find out if we can legally bill a guy.
Okay.
and if we can, then that's what I would ask Kevin to do. Remove them and open
Well, we
it up.
have to give him a deadline to have them removed by.
Immediately, it's 24 hours, that's public road. with block
Okay,
party.
but I think we have to state that you have to have these removed immediately. If they're not moved within
A certain time.
a certain
frame,
time frame, then the town will remove them at your expense.
Correct,
48 hours or something.
right.
Overtime rate or whatever.
Is that the consensus?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And unless you have any questions about my report, I wanted to go back and look at the ARPA plan. We should be able to do it by 7 o'clock. Okay,
We got
We got a few more members coming, so.
that's Tim time.
Okay.
So Tim and I, the town had voted to accept this ARPA fund.
Yeah.
And the interim final rule had come out a while back, kind of giving ideas of how you could spend these funds. But we had been waiting to get the final rule because there was no guarantee that if we spent money on something that was iffy, that we wouldn't then have to pay the funds back. So I've read the final rule and feel more confident about how we can spend this money. Some things I think have come off the list because I don't think they're covered based on what I read. And there might be a few new things. And I think the intent tonight is just to go over these items and possibly get an agreement on a couple of them for us to move forward. So Tim has done a lot of numbers. So Tim, if you want to.
Sure. So if you turn to the page in the packet that had the ARPA listing, and you'll see that the money that we received was $370,915. And then you've already approved the senior center fire and security system for $11,000. And we discussed earlier some of these items. We discussed the wage adjustments for the PD of $30,560, premium pay for public works $7609, and those items were part and parcel of the discussion earlier on the roster and the PD budget changes. So as we go down through these, the first two items pertain to the Tahoes. And as I said, we're keeping a placeholder for a Tahoe should the warrant article in 22 or 23 not be approved. We have through the end of 24 to spend these monies. And then also if the warrant article does not get approved for 22, the one that you reviewed tonight, the second item is in there, the detail fund shortfall. And then we have the matching grants for economic development. Jeannie could speak more about that.
Yeah, if you recall, the first time we brought this around, the number was $50,000. The final rule was a little bit more explicit and causes me a little concern about how we could use those funds. And I felt like after talking with Tim that we should drop it down to 25,000 because part of there's definitions of small business, how they've been impacted, has to do with ethnic,
Minority-owned businesses.
businesses and that sort of thing. And so that's why we dropped that down to 25,000.
Also, the lamp posts, which we've discussed before, those are 33,400. One of the big areas of that the ARPA funds were designed to address was in technology, and in particular, cybersecurity. And in order to do some of those things, it does require updated hardware and software. So the servers and disaster recovery item here, 35,000, that was the same as the prior listing. Generator for town hall, this is a placeholder really, as we have to get more finite numbers. And the generator that we had that will not fit here would then be installed over at the senior center. So because that is a designated shelter, it would have a dedicated generator. So the generator for town hall, 25,000, the senior center windows and insulation, 25,000, and I believe that one also we're looking for some better numbers on. I discussed the senior center fire and security system already. There's a sound system that's been discussed that would be mobile, but be able to be used at Riverfront Park, among others. And that sound system, you know, really high quality PA system, if you will, that's $10,000. The School Street exterior stair door replacement, we have down at 5,000, but we're waiting on the report for the town hall that was done, and we should have better numbers on that. And then we get into, I'm going to skip the radios for a minute, Winter Street crossing, and Ginny can talk more about it, but it's up to $50,000 is what we had set aside.
Right, so since for the 3 years that I've been here, that's one of the number one complaints I've heard this board talk about, the safety factor. And one of the things that the ARPA funds looks at is creating safe pedestrian crossings, especially since they're encouraging people to be outside more. So this seemed to fall right in with that. And you remember back, I think Catherine was on the board at that time, we had gotten a quote from the DOT for a unit to go there, and it was quite expensive at the time. Meredith has just had a major, had a fatality and some major injuries on our main street, and they just purchased these blinking lights that run off on solar, which are less expensive. So what I want to do is go back to DOT and say, because it's in line with the manual uniform code, whatever it's, I can't remember the exact name, but go back to DOT and say, is that acceptable? Because if it was, then maybe we could think about putting one at Winter Street and one down by
the island.
The island. So.
Good idea.
So in any event, so it may not be as much as the 50,000. We'll be seeing about that. The last two items there are tied into the cybersecurity and technology, and they stress fiber, you know, expanding the fiber. So when we did talk at one point about it, I was asked, you know, what that would look like. So the installation of fiber at the Senior Center, Riverfront Park, and Public Works would be about $4,050. It does run right along Main Street, you know, right next and right near the Senior Center. And then also when you factor in the access for that for the year 2022, the total including installation would be about $7,650. Going back to the radios, so if you recall, the board had approved the local locality equipment grant, which was a $50,000 technology grant. You approved the fire district to be able to use a portion of that for the UV light and also for the ventilator for an ambulance, and Northfield did as well. But that leaves us with about $32,000 in that grant available. And as we've gone through the replacement of our tower, of our repeaters, and all the other components of our radios, the one thing that we didn't address were the radios themselves. And these radios, I believe if you recall, we went through how old they are, what we've spent in the past. We did benefit from the state providing radios at one point in time, but these radios are now running on I believe the 10th or 11th year. So in any event, looking at what the police would like to replace them with are the Motorola 6000s, and with a Bluetooth microphone, which also has a light for looking at a license, and doesn't get tangled up with them on with their new vests. The total cost for each radio is about $4,000, just under $4,000. There's a lower powered unit, which also doesn't have the frequency shown on the top of the unit. That's what the fire district has. Those would be about $3,000 to purchase. So we've put in here, the power is really what is the deciding factor here, because now with the new repeater at the tower that we're on now for our main communications, we can now get radio signals into the high school where we couldn't before. So it's really an important factor, and so we don't want to go back in terms of the power for these units. So that's why we're looking at $4,000. The $32,000 then would cover 8, and to do the balance of the 15 certified that we're anticipating for this year, we'd be looking at additional $7,000 or $28,000. So that's what that line is for. So the items I would like approval on tonight, particularly since you voted on the reduction in the police budget tonight, based on the roster that we discussed earlier, I would like approval for the wage adjustments for the PD, and that's the $30,560. I would also recommend doing the premium pay, the next line premium pay, and then the radios of the $28,000. And the reason, and along with that would be the approval to seek the $32,000 through the locality equipment grant. We would only expend this $28,000 if the locality equipment grant goes through. So,
Make a motion that we approve the Town of Tilton ARPA Fund Plan premium pay for the Public Works wage adjustment, $7,609. Wage adjustment PD, $30,560. And the radios for the locality equipment. Radios 15 certified times 4,000 each, less the locality equipment grant for $28,000.
Motion, is there a second? I'll second it. Any discussion? Joe?
This looks like you're getting 15 radios
correct.
at $4,000 each. It's not $28,000.
So we're purchasing 8 through the locality equipment grant separately.
Okay.
That's the one that we're sharing with the fire district for that UV light and the ventilator.
Okay.
And then this, the ARPA funds, we're making up the difference, which is the remaining 7.
Okay.
Any other discussion? John?
Yeah, I guess, so these numbers and these things, they change? You know, if something didn't work out for it, or we could.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. So aside from the payroll ones that we discussed here, if the locality equipment grant, which we can.
I addressed it I had put it in my report that we I did write the grant with Chief Seatar. That grant has been submitted. It was, I think there's a balance of 32,000 left in the locality equipment grant. And this would qualify. And this is a separate bucket of ARPA funds.
I guess so. What I'm asking is, let's take any item here. We'll pick your service.
Well, how about the windows and insulation?
Okay, windows, yeah. Okay, windows and insulation.
That's a type of server, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah. There's service in there. So if that money in that amount isn't what actually is going to get spent, then that money we could use towards something
Correct.
different.
Right.
Shuffle them around a little bit. This is
Right.
our game plan.
Some of these are placeholders.
Okay.
Some we need to
have
get
quotes.
better quotes on. And if you recall, you may recall that we did get the $56,000 FEMA grant for the EOC work that we did. That's paying for the second floor here of $45,000. That leaves us $11,000 for all the other improvements we need to do in this room for the lighting and other such things. So
Because other things might pop up.
right, because originally we had lighting for the second floor in these funds, but now because we were successful with that FEMA grant, as long as we're waiting on the quote, so as long as that's less than that, we won't have to use any FEMA funds. So
So, can I just,
yeah.
So this plan that's in front of you is a plan based on conversations that we've had with you throughout the year. So, and it is changing based on the final rule in terms of what we feel comfortable will. We don't want to be on the other side of this and have to pay money back. So Tim and I are looking at things and proposing things to you that we feel confident we're not going to, in 2026 have to pay this money back to the federal government, because it's pretty clear in the final rule what's acceptable and what's not. So we're taking it very slowly, step by step, and we'll get quotes for these things as we go along and then come back to you for other items.
They'd also have the maximum utility for the community.
Right.
So, where you get the most bang for the buck.
So in that vein, would it be, knowing that we're in a very busy season, would it be prudent to start getting quotes on these?
Yes.
Knowing that we still have supply chain issues, I'm not going to go into the litany of things that are out there.
We are working on
Okay.
a number of them, and just you'll note the note at the bottom. So we have to spend the funds by December 31st, 2024. So not that we're waiting on anything, but because costs will only go up. But it is a little difficult to get some quotes from some people. So, yeah, depending on availability.
Mm-hmm.
All right, any other discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstention? Motion passes.
That's it for my report, unless you have any questions for me. Sorry about that.
Bob Hardy, Chair of the Parks Commission, have a seat.
Always Tim's
Does that mobile mic work, Tim? Tim,
I knew we were going to do it.
Oh, no, she's.
Tim, does this mobile mic work?
Yes, it does.
So if we have anyone over here that would like to speak, maybe we can.
I think it's coiled up.
Well,
Maybe.
I thought it was wireless. I didn't see the wire.
There is one.
That was a good idea. That one, Pat. Fast.
We will have wireless soon.
All right. Welcome. We're here. I have to find my notes.
That's 2009, so.
I'm just trying to find my notes, sorry.
No, that's okay.
Mhm.
Thank you.
Oh, yes. So we have you here to bring up the topic of roles and responsibilities related to the Parks Commission. Right now, they have the ability to hire people, sign contracts in addition to programming. We've had a previous discussion that we should have the parks be in charge of programming and move everything else back to the town with the buildings, so that we would be in charge, and other stuff, so that we'd be in charge of contracts, getting bids for like the roof at the Riverfront Park and assuring that our assets are maintained. So we're here to discuss the idea. I know from attending I think it was the last meeting, that the idea of the Parks Department not being responsible for the buildings. I don't know if there's more than one, but it seemed to be an idea well received by the Parks Commission. And if I misinterpret that, I apologize, but I thought it was good. So we're here to get your input on that.
Yeah, no, all but one member of the commission's here, and we discussed it at a last meeting and agreed, as far as the buildings go, that it makes the most sense for the town really to take over the maintenance and so forth. Our big concern was exactly what falls under that preview. When is it just the buildings? Is it the grounds? Is it the irrigation system? And that's what our questions were. So I'll turn it back to you guys to see what your thoughts, Joe.
What's your suggestion?
No,
No, listen,
What do you want?
you guys, yeah, what do you want to do? I don't want to say, oh, no, just do the programming. If you've got a plan for the grounds and so forth, if you want to ditch the irrigation, it's a town property, and I could see where we would do that. We're not looking to strip you of your authority so much as maintain town buildings and.
Right, that was our feeling as far as the buildings, the walkways, that sort of stuff, that should come under. Our concern with the grounds was presently Riverfront is being maintained by the PDW, but we've got to stay on top of them constantly as far as weeding goes, and even the mowing. Sometimes they get a little zealous and spin donuts on the walkways, and you get these green marks because they're trying to do it fast and everything. And we've got an excellent working relationship through Jeannie with Kevin now, and Kevin more or less listens to us and gets his crew working on those problems. But like putting out the RFP for the roof, we didn't know how, so that's why we reached out to Jeannie, and I don't think it ever really got done. Catherine did a lot of the legwork, calling contractors and everything, and it's a lot easier if you do just a general RFP than having to call individual contractors up. So I could definitely see that being better handled and better situated with the town public works or town selectmen and everything. So the other question we had was like the reservation systems. Are we still responsible for that through Gale, or is that something that you guys are looking to take over? And to be honest, we have to sit down with Gale because we have had a lot of problems in the last year or so with the reservation system. That it's not being uniformly applied. So we just want to sit down and talk through that more with her and everything, if we're going to be responsible for it, and we feel we should. And jump in, guys, if I'm stating something you don't agree with or misstating it and everything, feel free. But
all right, that whole reservation system is very difficult because we're supposed to be there before and after, and most of us don't have the ability to do that. So we leave that up to mostly DPW, I think, Department of Public Works, or a select person sometimes.
I know Pat's done it a lot of times for us.
We're not done it a
Yeah,
couple times.
John's done it.
John's done it.
So it is a sort of a collaborative effort anyways. And so I guess the only thing that we'd be concerned about is if infrastructure or other design changes to any of those parks, we would want to be in charge of that, where and you guys do the maintenance and keeping that the buildings up to snuff, type of stuff, building the grounds.
By design changes, do you mean like, we need to replace a tree? What kind of tree are we gonna replace it with?
Right.
We wanna plant some flowers, but we wanna plant these kinds of flowers,
Sure.
that kind of thing.
That kind of thing.
Those kind of-
About the field, the 132 field, and what can we'd like to be part of that design as well, of course, the selectmen are too, but
One of the things we've talked about upgrading is the playground equipment down at Riverfront, that we all feel that needs to be looked at and upgraded. So we'd like to pursue that, I guess, ourselves, rather than have Public Works do that. I mean, we reach out with Kevin and talk to him, because that's going to require expansion of the wood chip area if we expand the playground, which we would look to him to do everything. But we'd like to select the equipment going into it.
So the infrastructure, go ahead. John has his hand up.
So basically, buildings and structures
Yeah,
would be, we take care of that
That-
stuff, and the maintenance in, repairs on them. And you guys would do grounds and recreational equipment
yeah,
or something?
yeah. That would,
And I don't know, actually, what we're doing, we're kind of like dumping it on our. We're gonna do it, but we're not. Okay, so it would be something, especially with reservations, that in a system that Jeannie would actually probably be one overseeing how that works.
That wouldn't change, that would stay with,
would stay with us.
Yeah.
And we've worked through Jeannie and Gail to,
That's what I meant.
yeah, no, just like we have in the past, reached out to Jeannie on stuff that we need Kevin to do, and same way with Gail, would reach out to Jeannie and see if we could set a meeting up with Gail to either come to one of our meetings, or we could meet with her to discuss the concerns we've got over the reservation systems. And give you an example. Twice last year, we had events going on that we had planned, and all of a sudden we find out that right after our event, Gail's made an agreement with somebody to use the park. It's not on the calendar. It's nothing that we knew about. So or before our event, I walked down to set up for the event, and there's a wedding going on there. And it's like, oh,
A lot of guests.
I just crashed a wedding. So forth. So it's like, that's the type of thing we need to tighten up and make sure it gets on the calendar and so forth, so that not only us, but the public that looks at our website and our calendar knows what's going on and so forth. So,
Yeah.
Bill had a question.
one of the other issues is that people reserve it, but it's an open public place, so people are reserved. There could be somebody there filled up with all the tables, and so then they have to share it. Unless we have some kind of system that can say, okay, we haven't got that, ability to say, okay, you can't use it because these people are using it. I mean, that's kind of an issue that we've had over the years that hasn't really been too bad, but it could become an issue. Yeah.
Is there, this is more of a question for me, so you make the wedding, weddings have been mentioned a couple times. Does the function hall that is there make reservations with the town when they want to do something with a wedding that's going on at the venue?
But if they need the kitchen.
No, I'm not.
They
talking about-
have in
Like
the
they want to,
past.
like they want to do
Yes.
pictures, yeah,
Well,
I was trying not to.
Right.
They want to have a photo shoot there, or they want to do maybe, carry cocktail trays out from the building out to there and, have like, hors d'oeuvres, because it turns out, oh, look at that, it's a beautiful fall day, but yet the Girl Scouts were gonna, do a cookie booth or something,
It's been more that they reserved the park to try to get around the parking issue and use our parking lot for their event. And this past year, we kind of stopped it as far as weddings, but there was a bunch of other events that they hosted there that you go down by our parking lot was solid full, even the handicap plates spaces were full. And we did contact the police, and the excuse or the reason that the police didn't chase the people out where they had already been drinking and they didn't feel comfortable sending them out to move their cars because they were already had alcohol consumption. So the cars got left
It's
there.
ludicrous. They're gonna drive away from there in another half hour, right?
Shut them off now.
I mean, that, Catherine, didn't we get that once or twice? It to us it seemed ridiculous, but that was one of the things that we have seen, and it's probably 4 or 5 times a year that our parking lot is totally full, and we have no control over it. Yeah.
Yeah, we have to figure out how we can get the people that are speaking here onto the record. Just realize that, so you just state your name for the record, please, too.
My name's Ann Miranda, and I'm the Parks Commission, and I don't understand why the owner of that venue doesn't utilize his parking lot on Mill Street. But there's enough parking spaces over there. Because we ran into a problem when we had, what was it, Christmas?
Christmas,
And
yeah.
Halloween, Doug, wasn't it Halloween? When they had a wedding venue going on, and we had people coming to, yeah, it was Christmas. And we had people coming to work the Christmas parade, and they couldn't park because the venue was using some of the parking places. So Ellie had to go out there and, speak to them. And then the guy, because there was a guy in that parking lot, but he wasn't adhering to the parking spaces that they could utilize. And so she told him, and then he kind of made the people move. But, there's a whole parking area that venue owns that they're not utilizing.
An ongoing issue since you had Riverfront Park over there.
Right.
Thank you.
So yes, as far as the buildings and that, we gladly have,
Structures like.
yes, yeah.
Joe?
My question is for Jeannie Forrester. Jeannie, it seems like you'd be the point person and working with Gail and the reservation things and all the rest of this stuff. What do you think about this? How does that fit in your world?
Well, I haven't been involved. It's been primarily Gail. I haven't really had a whole lot to do with this other than if Bob needs something from Kevin. He's reached out to me and I've talked to Kevin, so I really haven't been involved a whole lot. I think it might be helpful. I've heard a lot. I think it might be helpful to put something in writing from this board that would go back to you so that everybody's on the same page. Kind of a working document to see where we end up. That would be my suggestion because, I mean, we're talking about it here, but you know, sometimes people hear things differently, so I think it would be helpful to put it in writing. That would be my suggestion.
Right, so we're gonna go take over the buildings, leave the irrigation and lawn maintenance.
Design. We do the lawn maintenance. We do it now.
The irrigation, we're not gonna,
Okay.
they're gonna do.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then you're
Tree
gonna,
trimming.
so that goes along also with the civil law in West Pocket.
Best Pocket and Civil War, we have under contract with Paul Rushlow to do the maintenance there. And Kevin seemed fine with that. It was a little bit less that he did. As far as tree trimming and that sort of stuff, Paul is our summer employee. He's a trained arborist. So we always ask Paul to do the tree trimming just because he's got the expertise over public works. So I would say, like you said, I think, Joe, about deciding what plants are going to get planted in the spring, fall, that comes back. Same way with maintaining the trees, that would be our responsibility. That we've got the summer employee that can easily do that, and he does it during his hours.
And does a
that he
good
works.
job of it.
Yes, yes.
So roots and things like that, contracts, that would be up for purview.
So physical structures.
Yeah.
Yep.
Fences, rails,
Yeah.
benches that are permanent benches, fishing piers, statues, lamps, physical, actual touching structures. We'll take care of that, and you'll take care of everything that grows.
Yep.
There you go.
Does that sound good?
Including the people.
Including the people. Yep.
We take care of inanimate, we take care of the
Yep.
Could you put something together that we can,
And then 132 ball field, the same. Did you make a decision on that, by the way, on the hockey thing? Oh, that's a bad subject, I think.
We made a decision. Eric communicated the decision to both Jeannie and Liz. And decision was.
Not us. You could have done that tonight. to us.
okay, but
Go ahead.
the decision was,
The decision was ignored, and we had voted to allow one hockey net at the far end, and there's two up there. And Eric, after the meeting, corresponded with Liz and corresponded with Jeannie, telling her what net. Liz put two nets out. So
can we go back to one net?
I don't know. I haven't been.
Yeah.
There are two nets out. I was over.
yeah,
I drove by it Saturday, there were two nets, but I know you had said you were gonna go by there, but I don't know.
I did not get by this
Okay.
weekend.
I
So
can tell you as of 5 hours ago, there were two nets out.
Yeah.
Eric suggested that I go by and remove one net and dispose of it.
I would let
Well,
the
just
person that
pull it
put
off.
it there remove it,
Yes.
but they should be removing it.
We
quick.
still have the concern that we had last year when we voted not to, but Liz felt, and she made a point that a lot of the kids come and want to use, what was your terminology, Bill? Sticks and pucks? Was it?
Stick and puck.
Stick and puck.
Stick and puck.
Jenny.
Are you getting people over there with sticks and pucks?
I have not seen it myself. I've only seen kids out there skating. Liz says that there's more people with sticks and pucks out there than just skates. I have not seen, and I mean, I went by last week, I think it was Friday, that I texted you, Eric, and there was mother, I'm assuming, and two kids out just, they were putting their skates on, had no sign of hockey equipment. Liz says every time she looks out from the building, there's somebody on the ice with sticks and pucks. So
Have you changed your vote?
we voted to allow one net.
That's right. And that hasn't changed,
Now,
right?
did Scott Haskins get in touch with you about the Pines wanting to, some group at the Pines wanting to use the skating rink?
No,
I had sent them over to you folks.
haven't heard a word from him,
That was a
so
few weeks ago.
no. Our feeling, and you and Ellie was gonna work on the sign, was it this past weekend? So, okay. It was, Bill, can you remember the wording you came up with it?
I actually, since our meeting, I've actually had, I found a sign and I will send that out. It is used in another town. I called that town and, because I said, oh, do you have people that watch your rink? They're like, no. I said, well, what happens if, at 2:00 when it's supposed to be open ice and there's people there? She said, they work it out. They explained that the sign and they respect what's on the sign.
Fine.
Very few times do the police get, like when they first started, the police had to get involved, but that was because, and they had someone there initially, but then that whittled away. So, but there also goes into the night.
I know last year Jeannie had got us a opinion from Primex, and they recommended if it's a recreation area, just keeping it to recreational skating, not hockey, not allowing sticks and pucks, but we felt that we'd try it for a while and see, allowing one net and allowing sticks and pucks on one end of it. So
I did check again with Primex, and they said we are covered liability wise if they're playing hockey, but their recommendation, and I think I sent all this information to Liz, the recommendation is that you can't have people skating on at the same time that you have people playing hockey.
Hockey, right.
I don't know how you do that.
Might be time for a second rink.
Oh, get out of town.
What, if it gets used a lot,
Right.
if it gets used a lot, and there's enough
And we
need
could have
for it,
Coach Murray. You never know.
great community thing.
Coach Murray in hockey, you never know.
I guess she played.
Oh, yeah.
He still does play.
She still
Yeah.
does play, yeah, I know. Plays very well.
Oh, Tilton School usually has an open skating time. I know that's been closed because of the pandemic, and that's a big resource that if things get back to normal, that could still be accessible, I think.
And then you could have that as a hockey.
Or just.
Or
that-
have
that-
Tilton School for hockey.
That
That
won't happen with our
It's free
liability.
skate.
It'll be free skate with no stick and puck.
Ah,
Because we have to have, at the school, if we have open skate or stick and puck for our kids on a non-practicing time, there has to be a faculty member in the
Okay.
building.
got it.
Yeah.
Oh,
I was going to say the other thing
Put up
with
your availability, Scott.
That'll cost you.
the other thing with our rink
Shut
and stick and puck is the side rails are not really high enough to stop sticking pucks from flying out of the rink and
That's true, but there's a whole New England-based league of teams that do just that. And they have these little barriers that, like, you can bounce it off the barrier, but they're trying not to get them flying through the
flying.
air.
Yeah.
See? That's why they have the big barriers at other places, because people are slap shotting it. you
Right,
know.
right.
Well, I'm sure we can get one of those nets taken down.
Well,
But-
and what Joe's talking about is, becomes the pond hockey and the pond hockey regulations. And if you watch, whether it's the black ice pond hockey down in Concord, or if you go up to Merritt, it's small wooden boxes that are low on the ice. So
Right.
the puck never comes off the ice.
No,
Yeah,
which
because
makes
if
it
it
much
did, it'll
safer.
go over the barrier, and
Barriers.
that's that.
Yes.
That might be safer.
Scott has a question?
So can someone elaborate a little bit for me in terms of, I'll try and use the term, what kind of complications are we having in terms of the reservation process, et cetera, for the parks itself? So, I mean, it sounds like it sounds like in terms of coordination and things, there just might be, just in terms of how it's communicated, what it's communicated. And I've been on the page looking at the packets for reservation. So
One of the things is the $75 deposit.
Mhm.
That's collected sometimes, other times it's ignored. And we need to streamline that and collect that all the time to keep it uniform. We have the clause in there for commercial operations that we can charge a fee. Again, it was used once last year for commercial fundraiser. There was no fee charged. So it's stuff along those lines. Some people are told, oh, well, you don't have to reserve the park. Just go down and use it if you want it. And yeah, if you're not using the kitchen, it's not as critical to reserve, but it's still nice to know that something is going on there. And if I drive by and I see a big gathering under the pavilion, I stop and say, did you reserve this? Oh, we were told we didn't have to because we're not using the kitchen. Well, doesn't make me look good interrupting them or anybody interrupting them. So
I was just going to say, I have heard frustrations expressed because, and perhaps maybe what needs to happen is you can provide better, more clear guidelines about, because this is the first, and I've heard the complaint, or I shouldn't say complaint, but the frustration again that, am I supposed to collect $75 from this person who's not using? Because the way it's worded apparently in the guidelines. So maybe if you clean up the guidelines or make them clear, that would be helpful for her when she's doing, because I think that's where the problem is.
I think it's miscommunications more than anything.
But if it's in writing, then you don't, then, and you know, you put that together, she looks at it, if she's got questions, she goes back, and then you get it clear so that going forward, it's all in writing, everybody's on the same page, and you don't have these issues.
is the fee the same for Island Park as well?
I can tell you it's the same for the senior center.
Okay.
Gail is having the same issues with the senior center because there are some that we for instance, when Lockmere Warrant, it's a entity of the town, we don't really charge, it's not really, it's kind of, we don't charge, but somebody coming in, renting for a baby shower, it's very different. And then we have regulars, the AA group, we have a very specific amount of money that we charge, and this is what we charge. But then we have like Windy Hill, which is the trailer associations up here, that they have an annual meeting, meeting. They're in town, they're community, so on and so forth. There's a specific there's difference. And so, you know, in fairness to Gail, that we tried to make it consistent and say, okay, fine, this is it. Weddings and things like that, it's very, very definitive. This is what it is. This is how we go about it. But when the RCC last month asked if they could come and, I guess they're going to different towns and say, can we use a facility in the town? They asked to use the senior center. Well, there would be no charge with that because it's all part of the town. It's all benefiting the town. So, yeah.
So when a request comes in, how is it disseminated out to your committee?
So it gets, they call the town and Gail gets the reservation.
Yeah.
And then Gail will say, this is reserved for such and such a day. And she does it. Emails Park Commission or emails Tilton Executive Committee.
Right. So if it was streamlined and if there was a digital application for it using a Google form, it could go to everyone immediately, instantaneously. So you could get this pre-application however we wanted to term it. It would go to Gail, it would go to all your guys' inboxes right away.
And it does.
But what I'm saying is she doesn't have to collect paperwork. She doesn't have to collect any of it. It automatically goes, it becomes a digital footprint of it. It streamlines everything. You guys will, everyone will know there can be the request date on it. I'm just saying it because as I look at this, being able to streamline for all of you, being able to streamline for Gail, a process where those initial applications would come in, you know, that then it becomes the communication to Gail. This group needs to be charged X, whatever it is.
Right.
That you'll all know instead of her having to collect it, get it, pass it back out, get it out to it all would go at one point in time. It could open up the line of communication much more simply. Plus, you can also look at the date requested or dates requested. You might already know what's blocked out and say, nope, we can't do those 3 because we've already got them blocked out. Now, on the other side, as you've said, people may just show up there not knowing that it needs to be reserved. That's a whole different story. But in terms of this and being able to help you folks streamline with Gail and help streamline Gail's work too, is I would strongly suggest that you start looking at just being able to have a form that can be filled out online and you'll all receive the email. Boom, you know, the Scott Ruggles community group wants to reserve Riverfront Park on July 12th. And then you have it, and then it's just it streamlines for Gail, who we all know is very, very busy as well. It makes it much easier.
I was going to say, because there has been cases where she's got an application and forgets to email it to us.
This one's an auto. It's done. It's a done deal that when they submit it and click submit.
It can be done the same thing to the island too, because she maintains it. She used to maintain it for the island for Northfield and Tilton, but now it's just Tilton.
Yeah, and so I mean, it just becomes a request. You know, you can do island request, you can do Riverfront Park request, and it's just a Google form that the person goes on, they fill out their name, they fill out whatever their organization is, et cetera. And then in the instant they hit submit, you all have it in hand. It may be something that you can make the decisions quicker in terms of, are we going to be able to do it? Can we do it? Or the communication goes out to them more quickly as well. And then the parameters of how things are done or what the rate is going to be and what the expectations are, that becomes something that becomes different where it's, you know, you've got your checklist before and afterwards as well. So.
And I know a guy that could make that happen.
So, that's after.
We do that with some other things now, so it's easily done.
Catherine had her hand up before too. I'd like to get what she wanted.
Oh, I was just gonna say that the park commissioners have discussed and have planned to review the reservation process because we haven't done it in
Couple of years.
Yeah.
a few years.
Yeah, just, I mean, you know, and I know you're all busy otherwise, whether it's Mr. Lawrence down there trying to sell me parts that I can put on my motorcycle or whatever it is, but you know, I just think that you could be able to streamline it for yourselves and for Gail as well by using the technology that we currently have here. And it's wonderful because you have the Google Calendar right on the thing. I mean, you can even, as I'm not trying to put the burden on Tim, but as Tim will tell you, there could be a tentative date put on there that it's penciled in, digitally penciled in, so someone could actually see it before they submit. Oh, that's a date that I want, but it looks like there's an event already there.
Yeah. Now,
Correct, yep,
And then email back confirmation.
correct, yep.
Scott, you were asking about the island. We've had, park commissions had nothing to do with the island because Northfield didn't want to, they wanted to work strictly with the Board of Selectmen and everything. And since we've taken it over, we've just left it with you guys.
It's ours now. And it'll have a different zip code.
No.
All
I
right.
know, I shouldn't do those things, but I'll get.
Anything else
Had 2 zip codes.
for the Park Commission? I keep on saying department. Parks Commission.
Thanks
Anything
for
else?
coming down. It's always
Thank you.
Thank you for
nice
inviting us.
bodies in the seat.
It's good. We'll get it sorted out and
Yeah,
it's
no,
gonna be great.
so.
Don't forget the board downstairs, there's lots of openings for town positions.
You guys can fill them. One more thing, just for Jeannie. Can you ask Kevin, when he met with us, back in, I guess it was November or so, we had talked about the big sign for Riverfront Park where we put up the letters needs to be refurbished, and he was gonna do it this winter. And I just wanted to ask you to send him a reminder on that, so.
Thanks
Thank
for
you
all
very
do.
much.
Thank you
Thank you
all.
very much. Thank you.
Always a pleasure, Catherine.
All right. Jeannie, do you have anything else for us? Or are we gonna discuss anything that we heard? Or-
No, I just need to. Update.
Okay. So,
Looks like you have somebody.
Yeah,
Update us with
oh,
non-meeting.
all right. So we have someone named, I think this is Eileen. Eileen Quinn.
Yes, hi, can you hear me?
We can hear you. Can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you. Nice to meet everybody. I can I just talk to you a minute about the situation we're kind of struggling with, my husband and I up on Pest House Road?
Does it have to do?
Oh,
with-
yeah.
Does it have to do with rocks?
Yes, it does, unfortunately. My husband and I are both retired. We have a residence here in Connecticut, and he goes back and forth because, as you know, we're building a home there. I'm a retired teacher, a little bit about us, and he's a retired electrical engineer. And he's working on the house, and it's been a very long, arduous process due to the pandemic, as you probably are aware. But we fell in love with the town of Tilton, and we have always loved New Hampshire, him and I, and we decided to put down roots up there. And Tilton, Pest House Road is where we decided to move. We love all of our neighbors. We've met them all. They're all wonderful. But this is what we have been dealing with. People coming up, shooting into the property with my husband staying up there in the camper, using the property as target practice. We've put a camera up there, broken the camera, signs, torn them down. Our contractor had his big dump truck parked up there for a number of months. They came onto the property, they cut the muffler out, which was over $2,000 in cost to the contractor. We had a homeless person squatting up. The contractor had to call the police to have him removed. We've had people coming up and down the road, setting fires, throwing beer cans all over the place. We've had people getting stuck up in the mud puddle. I don't know if you've ever walked the road. During the night, in the middle of the night, all hours, my husband has pulled them out with the tractors, with the excavator. One man was stuck up there for 5 days. He couldn't get his Jeep out. We have trash up and down the road, but more specifically up past the boulders. Aluminum siding, barbecues, tires, you name it, hypodermic needles. We are from Connecticut, so we don't have a lot of experience with Class 6 roads, but we took this on because we love the property, we love the town. We've fixed the road. We're at our wits' end with this situation on this road. We don't want to break any laws or any rules or have any disrespect for the town, but we don't know what to do. And since my husband put the boulders there, all this nonsense has come to an end. We're a little perplexed, him and I, why in the middle of the night people want to drive up that road, through that road, and wherever they're going, I assume to the other side of the road that lands over there on Winter Street in Tilton. We don't understand it, but so be it if that's what they want to do. But like I said, they're getting stuck up in there, and he's there. He's trying to be a good guy, a good Samaritan. He's helping people out. But we're getting repaid with a beating from the locals. You know, why do they have to tear down signs? Why do they have to tear down the cameras? Why do they have to come on the property and destroy other people's property? It's just not being respectful. So I'm here to attend the meeting on behalf of my husband and I to ask you good folks, what do you do about this situation? I mean, there was some mention of a gate from the gentleman from your Public Works Department, which my husband has spoken to. And by the way, my husband is going to remove the boulders on the weekend. He has to get back up there to do that. But we don't know what to do. I mean, we're not from your state. We don't know your guidelines. And like I said, we don't want to break any laws, but we don't know how to put some kind of a squash on all this craziness that's up there. And I guess you have to be up there to understand what's going on. So I'm looking to you for some guidance. I'm looking to you for a procedure or something, what we can do. I mean, we you know, we don't want to see anybody hurt or, you know, or break any laws, like I said, but we don't know what to do.
John?
Yes, I'm finished.
I'm John Scanlon. I'm from the Selectmen here, sitting on your.
Pleased to meet you.
I think it's probably something that the police should be involved with in discussing those things with you if there are unlawful things that are going on. Probably help facilitate that.
John, we did police to come up and patrol the area. I think they did come up once or twice, but that's as far as it went.
That's a hard one considering where they are.
Mhm.
Yep.
You have to go all the way around through Franklin to get up in there the back way, because you really can't pass. We don't maintain that road.
So I think they'll have to, sounds like something they're gonna have to resolve, and we can talk. Right?
That road is subject to gates and bars, is it not? Even though we never put them up?
No. We never did that. That was Range Road.
That's range.
Range
Pest
Road,
House Road is pretty much just ruts and rocks.
correct. Right.
There's no regular commerce on that
They
road.
can't, right, even though boulders are the same as gates. Hello, my name is Pat Constantino.
Hi, please.
So a Class 6 road, you can't block by any means, even a gate. Even if you had the gate accessible, you still couldn't block it. So John is right, you need to get the police involved, but the difficulty in that is the location of where the property is, because you have to come in through another town, in another city, of where that, get to where you're at, and it's the location of where that is a prime consideration for snowmobilers and things like that. And perhaps maybe the police can set up some deer cams in areas where it's not accessible for them to rip down and get who's up there, around in there. Our town administrator, Jeannie, can talk with our Lieutenant Abe Gilman. He knows the area very well. We can talk with him. One patrol is not going to do it. It's going to take over a period of time, several patrols, in working with your husband who's up here, that if I'm understanding correctly, who's up here at different times of the evening. So it would be an evening shift that could randomly go up there and patrol. It would be deer cams and things to that nature. They would have to probably give you the best approach to that, but they would need to be on it constantly in order to do that, and that's a long process. It's not an easy one by any means, but you're right, you shouldn't be disrespected by owning property in that area, but it's a very difficult area to get to. It's not further down closer to the Caleb Hill area, we've had problems with folks with kids in the area, and we have found that they've disrespected the land, but we've not found things like hypodermic needles and things like that. So that's a horse of a different color up there. We need to figure out with Abe. When you were out of the room, she said that they have found hypodermic needles and things like that. Okay. So we need to get her information and give it to Abe and let Abe talk with the homeowners and see if they can come up with some type of a plan that will suffice and try to surveil it over a period of time and see if they can't come up with some of them. If it's curtailed it with the boulders, we can't have the boulders though, because we have to have access to, because they're buildings and back further and by the Franklin area, and we cannot.
The boulders are past our property. So they're in between the boulders and the other side of the road, which we noticed there is only one homeowner. There's nothing. There's nothing there. There's a huge mud puddle. There's absolutely nothing in there. There's no homeowners. There's no property owners. There's nobody. It seems to stop. We know that there's a property owner between Shannon Road and the end of where our property is. There's a property owner. The Dunlaps, they own a piece of land in there, but they are not building anything on that property. There is no other property owners. There may be that we know of, because there's no homes on either side of the road up through the high tension wires that go across Pest House over to the other side. So we're the only house up there. After us, there's nothing but mud puddles and rocks. So,
Okay.
so we don't know, we're perplexed as to why people even want to drive through there.
Okay, so does it go all the way through to the other side to Caleb?
It does.
And you can make a pass through there?
Nah, not unless you've got a serious.
Snowmobiles can,
Snowmobile can.
ATVs.
That's why it's coming up, is because that's.
An
The
ATV
snowmobiles
can.
Do you block your way to your driveway with the boulders?
To get into our property across our driveway is a gate. My husband installed a gate. But
So-
what happens is they go right past us. They go right past us up the rocks, rocky terrain, and where they go after that, we don't know. I guess they must ride through to the other side of the road, which to us is very perplexing because we see it as almost impassable. You have to have a serious four-wheel drive vehicle to get through to the other side of the road. And I guess, is it Chuck? the DOT fella came by and told my husband that there's a downed tree down there, down on that end. And he wants to know, what do we do about that? We don't know about anything down tree because we never go down that side of the road. To us, it's impassable. We've walked a little bit down there, and then the water goes over the road. I mean, I don't even know how you go through there.
Do we have a liability release for them up there for any, living up there for any ambulance or fire or anything like that?
I'm not sure that you got that when you approved this property. I have to check.
So if we so my thinking is, and I'm not really sure on this, we need to ask an attorney on this. In order for them to keep the boulders there, we would need a liability release.
It is a public road. It's a
According-
class 6.
It's a class 6.
According to the information I have here, all class 6 highways are deemed subject to gates and bars, which means an abutting landowner may install a gate or a bar across the road. The gate or bar cannot interfere with the public's use of the highway, meaning the traveling public must be able to open and close the gate or remove the bar.
Why don't you let me do a little research?
Yeah, let's.
We're gonna get in touch with a lawyer and see what we can do about this.
There was
Yeah.
a
I'm sorry. I certainly appreciate. I did go on the New Hampshire rules and regulations today and researched the class 6 roads because this is very new to us, and the problems that have ensued because we chose to live on a class 6 road, I don't think we expected to have to deal with. And I can see you, helping us by asking the police to monitor the area, but obviously they can't be there 24/7 to monitor the area. And my husband is there 24/7. I mean, he comes back and forth. And with the winter, it's very hard staying up there in the camper, as you can imagine. So it's, like I said to you, I can't imagine who or what wants to travel through the terrain past those boulders, because to us, it's like, it's how do I want to say this? There's a great liability up there in getting hurt.
Do you have your property posted?
We have our property posted, no trespassing and all of that, but they've torn our signs down and we've had to put them back. And my husband has had to bring a ladder up there and put it up even higher on the tree so they can't reach it. This is craziest nonsense we've ever seen.
So even though there's snowmobiles and everything else, the property is still, still have a liability with the property being posted. Okay, we'll get back, town administrator will get back to you.
Jeannie's gonna do some research and we will get back to you once we have some.
Thank you so much for your time. And thank you so much, Jeannie. I appreciate you letting us know about the meeting.
Oh, sure.
And have a good evening now.
Okay, you too.
Bye-bye.
Thanks.
We have a couple of different issues there because property is being posted. It's a class 6 road. She barred it.
On the rock. She could bar it, but they have to be a removable bar.
Even a gate, they would go on, they're still damaging the property. You still have.
That's a separate issue from the rocks in the road.
Yep.
Yeah. All right. Jeannie's gonna get some answers on that and then come back to us or come back to the property owner. So we've come to the best time of the night.
I think I go.
No, it's not 8:15 yet.
John?
Yeah, there's a little thing that I brought up, I think it was our last meeting about the parking and inconsistencies in it. We have some things we have to take a look at.
So John showed me an emergency parking ban This is relative to the dumpsters taking up the spots on the parking spaces on Main Street that you all directed me to tell the gentleman he could do that 3 days. He gave me the direction.
Except,
Well, John's saying now that this is.
Which also applies to where it conflicts with our snow removal too in banning parking, because in order to ban parking for a snow emergency, going to that, you have to post signs every 100 feet that you're going to be banning it in advance. So if there's a snow emergency or other parking things, you have to post it a certain way. And it has to
well,
be
we
clear.
can do, does it preclude him from putting a dumpster there?
Well,
Or there's just certain things he has to do?
there's a lot of things. It means that we can't go and tell somebody you can't park on the street or move your car in the daytime unless you put signs up every 10 feet. So that our ordinances contradict with our parking lot, each other.
In general.
Yeah. And I don't know if that plays into the dumpster thing too. So you can see, if you're going to tell people you can't park because it's a snow emergency, you have to put signs up.
Mhm.
Did you read that one, Pat? So, yeah, it's one of those things we've got to sort out. That's an older ordinance that contradicts with the other one, so.
But didn't we, when we wrote the newer ordinance, didn't we say that that superseded the older ordinance?
But there's a separate ordinance that refers to emergency restriction on parking. This is not the same ordinance. This is a separate ordinance. So yes, we updated the old ordinance for the
Okay.
parking,
Got it.
but we didn't update emergency restriction on parking or, and who can actually restrict, prohibit parking on traveling public street.
Mhm.
Emergency for facilitate removal of the snow, other hazards.
Okay. We need to
So
look
I
into it.
mean, we'll have to figure out. It appears to me that this probably would just apply to the snow and that we could just eliminate it because all these things are covered on the other ones, but you know, this is what happens when we start changing ordinances. We don't
We
know
don't get
how
rid
it,
of the old ones,
well, and other ordinances that
have a different name.
have a different name but do the same thing contradict.
Right.
Good catch.
So what would you like me to do? Do I tell this gentleman that we're waiting until we get some ordinances? I'm not sure.
Make him put up signs if he has to put up signs.
I'm not sure, is that emergency restriction? Because this is emergency restriction.
This isn't an emergency. This is just the gentleman that's putting a dumpster out. I don't
So
qualify.
you're okay with him going
What
forward?
happens if there's a snowstorm?
So we may wish to look and see if we can eliminate this ordinance.
But that's
Yes.
not, okay, but that's not
Right.
what.
That's not the issue at hand. The issue is, does Jeannie go back to this gentleman, tell him what we decided earlier this evening? Or do we put everything to a halt until we can resolve
That's
the,
what I'm-
I would just,
To go ahead with the dumpster.
Yeah.
But the issue at hand that I'm bringing up is that we have
We
an
need to
ordinance
resolve
that
it.
contradicts our other ordinance.
Right,
So you
we need to
makes
figure
renders
that
it
out.
unenforceable.
Right,
we will have to fix that.
and we need to fix that.
So I'm thinking that we may possibly just be able to eliminate
Eliminate it,
this one because it
right.
is.
We've already got it in the new one. It covers it in the new one. But I would say go ahead with the dumpster and it's a couple of days and Kevin, snow removal, if that happens, the dumpster's gonna take up that spot anyway, and we can work around that.
All right.
agreed.
We
I
all
think
set?
Joe has something to say.
Thank
Joe-
you.
Oh,
Uh-oh, no, you don't.
Kim has something to
What?
say.
May I?
Oh, sure.
have more
5
business for you.
Oh,
This is, I went through the numbers and you just have a couple of quick decisions to make so that we can present a complete picture to the budget committee. So there are two copies here. There were 3 changes. If you recall, the Celebrate didn't get changed. So there was the interest coming out of the finance budget, public works training changing, and then the town clerk tax collector had requested the 4%. So the difference in the one that's marked A has the increased numbers, the increase for the 4% and the decreases for the others. And the one that's not marked A, it has the interest and the training changed, but it does not have, it's the one with the writing on yours. I had to make a copy of that. So the other one has the current wage for the town clerk tax collector. So basically, both of these have the interest and the training change. One has the 4%, one doesn't, because it changes the taxes and retirement line in the administrative budget. So, so we're looking at a difference of a little over $3,000 for that request from her. And at her current wage, it would be a 2.69% increase. The selectmen's recommended over 2021 if you approve this, and it would be a 2.75% increase if you approve her going into the budget with a 4% increase. So.
And what you're saying is don't put the increase in that Kim's asked for.
No, I'm giving you 2. One has the 4% and one without.
But if we choose this one without, we choose the one with not putting it in, and she goes on town meeting and asks for the
I guess she could do it that way, but the way you've done it in the past is you generally have put through whatever the town clerk tax collector has asked for.
Right.
And it goes to the budget committee, and then it gets
Right.
discussed at town meeting. But you can have it either way you like.
If she requested it with $4,000 in there, then $4,000 it is.
4%.
2,500.
With taxes and everything else, it's a little over 3,000.
That's been our standard practice for a number of years.
It has.
Cindy used to come to the Board of Selectmen
Yep.
and request a wage increase, and we talked about it and voted on it. She's an elected official.
Right.
And whoever is the town clerk tax collector, by the time we get to town meeting, is an elected official, and if that's the budget that's submitted, so be it.
And they'll have to defend it too,
That's right.
depending upon who it is and whether people, question that or not. In the past, it generally has been a discussion point at most of the meetings, but
Sometimes it's been a
And if it's not
contentious.
Kim, then it's gonna need to be defended. If it is Kim, it's gonna need to be defended. So it's like, it's gonna need to be defended either
probably.
way.
Yeah.
I mean, you
So-
still have to defend 4% merit increase.
So your number going to the budget committee would be $6,003,001,
Yeah.
which is the bottom line, including the sewer of the operating.
Then why
budget.
did you give us this sheet?
Comparison.
A comparison.
Oh, just a
Because
comparison. But
that's
this is the one you're
basically-
gonna go with.
Well, I'm asking you what you want,
Okay.
what you're going to vote on it, hopefully.
All right.
And then we're
All right, I
set.
motion we go with A,
That's the 4%.
$6,003,001.
Second.
Wait, I have a question. Can you make the motion on something and vote on something that affects,
But she's an elected official.
She's an elected
She's a
official.
department.
but it's just,
I'm voting on a total budget.
all right. Okay, I didn't know if you're specifying the town clerk tax collector.
Jeannie,
Okay.
seriously, the total budget last year included deputy town clerk tax collector's wages. I voted on a total budget.
I thought you were
I'm
I
not
thought you were,
specifically voting on Kim Souls' wages. I'm voting on a total
Budget number.
budget number on the bottom. It's up to the public to vote on that.
Do we have a second?
You did.
You did.
Good enough. I call the question.
All right, questions were called. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? None.
Okay.
Motion passed.
We have a number to go to the budget committee, and they are meeting next Wednesday. So, and they'll review the changes to the police budget. And I would expect them to have a number that will go into the warrant and also for their public hearing.
Budget
On the
committee's
second.
meeting next Monday. I mean, next
Wednesday.
Wednesday. And is this
Not the public
That-
hearing.
not the public hearing?
It's not, that's not the public hearing.
is February 2nd.
Right.
All right.
Great.
Joe, do you have something to say?
I would like to propose to make a motion. Wow. To adjourn, get that.
Second,
Aye.
all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? None. Motion passes, and we are adjourned at 8:16 PM.
Didn't we have a